granddaughters that
Anybody else want to sign in for public comment? Right here. I guess I'm going to do it. Okay, item number 3, changes or additions to the agenda. Steve?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I've made several comments over previous board meetings about the contributions Mr. Torpa has provided this board with his guidance and wisdom. Thank you, Bob. In light of the information that I've received, I now know his comment that the whole board should be involved with the Mandarin work group was spot on and incredibly prophetic. With that said, I'm requesting the board to consider a postponement of any action on the Mandarin program until either the April regular board meeting, or if there's a shorter timeline than that date, and then establish a date of a workshop prior to that where the whole board can be briefed and discussion. My views are one thing, but what's important about my views is being able to understand what each of your views are. And I don't have that, and I haven't had that opportunity to have that because of the process that we utilized. So I'm just putting that out. I've got some motions that I'm prepared to present, but there's no point in doing that if the board isn't willing to consider a postponement.
All right. This is new territory for me. Okay. How do we deal with that? Do we deal with that in the form of a motion at this time? I think, in view of other things we've got going on here, we've got public comment, and we've got I just think it would be best for us to deal with this before we get into the public comment period. So I think, Steve, I would entertain a motion for you to postpone if that's what you want to do.
Okay, well, I want to make sure the motion is correct. So you and I discussed procedure of the meeting operation. What I want to make sure is there's not a date that we need to meet. Lisa, are you aware of any date that we need to have before the regular board meeting where we need to convene maybe a special meeting?
I believe mid-April or sooner, we should be finding out about grant opportunities through the college board.
Okay, but when are we required to respond?
April 15th.
Okay,
Okay,
so,
and our next board meeting is April 21st.
okay.
So this sounds like we would have to squeeze in a workshop and then probably a special board meeting to deal with just this issue, if that's how we want to proceed.
That's what I'm suggesting.
Okay, may I make a comment?
Sure.
Okay, so I appreciate everything that you're saying, Steve. And I did almost beg the board to come up with some kind of a workshop as a whole to meet with Mandarin people. Now, we met 3 times. And, you know, I've got a busy schedule. I know that Chuck's got a busy schedule. I know for a fact that Lisa does and everybody else involved. We put in quite a bit of time in going through all this stuff. I guess I'm not comfortable delaying it, just because of the time that we spent doing it. I feel good about what we came up with, but I do respect each board member's wishes and thoughts and desires as far as needing to be up to speed with this. If you're not up to speed with what's going on, then I can totally respect that. But hopefully, the rest of the board would respect the amount of time that Lisa, Chuck, and myself, and the people that came in and met with us put forth. I understand that not everybody has the ability to be there. You know, I really wanted a workshop. It didn't happen. I don't know exactly what the time frame is, Lisa, as far as what we're up against, as far as deadlines. Me personally, I'm comfortable in moving forward with it as recommended. I guess I was under the assumption that we were actually kind of a board committee. You know, maybe that's a different opinion amongst the board members. But that was sort of my intent going into this, into each one of these meetings, that we were representing the board, we were going to make a recommendation to the board. So that's kind of where I'm at on this. And I would be really interested to hear the rest of the board's thoughts on this. Josh, Buddy, you know, because we need to obviously get moving forward with this, I think. I'm not sure. Lisa, can you let us know on the deadlines?
I believe exactly what she said, but we can find out and look it up.
Chuck, if I may,
Yes.
you know, there's a 2-sentence phrase from our minutes of our January meeting that define what we discussed, and I think it pretty well replicates our discussion, and I'd like to read it. It says, after discussion, the board decided Mr. Torpa and Mr. Hendrickson, along with Ms. Nelson, would meet with the Mandarin Group and report back to the board. Now, Mr. Torpa has indicated, you know, that we've conveyed them the authority to formulate a viewpoint and a motion. I did not, you know, I didn't convey that. That was not my intent. And that's why I just feel we need to get together as a full board, talk this out, and figure out, you know, what all the issues are, and then from that move forward.
Well, my opinion is that I came prepared to act tonight. However, it's more important that we take a little bit more time and get it right, because if we mess this up now, it'll be messed up later. So, I don't like to delay this, but I understand where you're coming from, Steve. And I guess I would support doing that if you feel the need. Yes.
It seems to me, and I understand, I appreciate, everything that you've said, Steve. The one thing that I guess I would say is if there is a recommendation, there is a motion, the board at that point, when the motion's on the table and seconded, has the opportunity to either vote it down or approve it. And so if the will of the board at that point is to vote it down, then it is delayed at that point until we get together and go back through this. So if that's not good enough for the board, then I'm not sure what should be, because basically the motion as it reads, it either passes or it does not. So it can be a roll call vote if you'd like, and if it fails, we go back and we start over. But that's just my thoughts. But that's coming from a person who put in 3 meetings about 3 hours long each. So, I mean, that's just me.
So, Mr. Chairman, how much, if Mr. Torpa's wishes are met, how much time are you going to allocate for that agenda item for discussion?
As long as it takes.
Well, and there's the rub, because I've got lots of questions, and I think there's folks here that want to comment, possibly other board members. There's possibly other options we could explore. I just think the cleanest thing is for us to postpone it, hold a workshop, allow the whole board to be fully involved and fully informed on the issues. You know, Bob's indicating we could vote, but, you know, my vote, I want my vote based on information. Information is power. And I don't have the power because I don't have the information. At 3:20 today, I got 3 pages of documents about the issue we're talking about. 2 of them I can't open on my iPad. And I had to come here to the meeting to get a hard copy of it. So, and honestly, with what I have seen prior to that, I've just got lots of questions and concerns, and I really believe the proper thing to do would be to have a special workshop, allow each of the board members to chime in, receive additional information if it exists, and formulate then a consensus from that to move forward. And I do not see how that is going to interrupt the process one way or the other.
Yes.
I'm not aware, I don't think I would have, just personally, from what we've been working on, any more information in a week or 2 weeks than I have now. So, I mean, we're gonna redo this whole process over in a week or 2 or 3 or whatever, we're still gonna have the same questions. I mean, I know this could be one of those marathon meetings, but we're already here. The new information we got was put together as a request of additional information. So I just don't know if it gets us anywhere. That's
my 2 cents is I'm going to be very busy here in the next 3 weeks, where I may not be able to attend the meeting. So my preference would be to, have a much longer meeting tonight and hopefully have enough information to vote on, then try to schedule something in a short time.
Let me have a thing.
Sure. Yeah, I was always under the impression that that we were going to send you guys to the group, and we were going to meet back here as a discussion. But now we have a discussion of the proposal, which I've always from day one disagreed with the financial part of this, and the proposal's coming out. So I have a lot of questions just in the financial, not so much the manner part of it, but how it's going to be supported. And gosh, I mean, just to, maybe it can be done tonight, but, you know, if I have any valid arguments, that means we have to amend the proposal, or I think there's just a lot of questions from the financial standpoint that need to be answered. And I appreciate the work you guys did, but it was never my impression that you were going to go and make a decision for the board. And that's what it appears to me now. There was so much stated that we initially asked for a workshop, and it was decided that a small group would be better. But by doing so, we circumvented the board, basically, and we haven't had the opportunity to have those discussions with the board as a whole.
The motion doesn't have to be accepted. I mean, we have the discussion before the vote.
Once the motion is made, you either amend it or you vote on it.
Right. But there's still the whole discussion phase before that actually happens.
I just don't think that discussion phase can, I mean, it's conducive to a regular board meeting. I mean, I think that it has to be given the focus it deserves, you know, to put it out there so we can have our questions answered. Maybe it's like you say, we're not going to get our questions answered, but at least I would have an opportunity to ask them.
Well, do what you guys want to, but I'll guarantee you one thing, I will not volunteer for another one of these little work groups like this again, because it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my time to spend 9 hours plus to go through all this stuff. We hashed out every possible scenario. And I understand that you guys are not great, but I will not be part of another work group like that as long as I'm on this board. If you want to get together and have a workshop, I'm all for that. I asked for it, we couldn't work it out. So you guys do as you please, but remember, I will not be a part of another one of those little work groups like that. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to waste my time.
Bob, I appreciate the time you guys have put in. But what is perplexing to me is, you know, we had a January board meeting. A month went by. We had a regular meeting in February. I received nothing, no reports from the superintendent in the superintendent's report. At the very end of that board meeting, under board reports, I asked the question, what's the status of the work group? And what I found out there was that you'd not met once, which is what I thought you'd met, is that you'd met twice. And now it's been brought to my attention that you've met again, no further feedback or information to me. And so this is absolutely no reflection on you and Chuck. I want you to understand that. I just don't feel like I've received the information that I need to process this thing.
I understand. I appreciate that, actually. I mean, I get it. I'm just saying that I don't know that it's a great idea to postpone it, but the board can do whatever the majority wants to do. So, yeah, I mean, you can make a motion to postpone it or whatever you'd like to do. That's totally within your rights.
Well, you know, Josh is indicating a very tight schedule. If we can't fit 2 meetings into his schedule, then there's no point in proceeding, because I do not want to proceed down that road without including every board member. Just don't want to go there. So if that's not a possibility, then we need to just allow things to move forward.
Doesn't work for you?
We could try, but my wife would be down for 2 solid weeks. And we sort of home for the majority of the weekends. So it makes it tight for trying to get all of us together.
We've got 2 additional meetings in between now and April 21st.
That'll be the, if we have the time to the April 15th, if
You're
you're
right.
ready.
You're right. 2 additional meetings in the next 4 weeks.
I would just like to add, there is no additional information. We had 2 or 3 meetings and we kicked around the same conversation for 9 or 10 or 11 hours. So, you know, what the board has is what we have. So it's not like we had extra information or additional, just, you know, we kind of had the same conversation.
You had a conversation with 2/5 of the board.
Yeah.
Bear that in mind, Lisa, 2/5 of the board, not the whole board, 2/5 of the board.
Right.
There's not one board member on this board that thinks alike. We're very unique and distinct. We all have different perspectives. We all process information differently. And that's my point.
Well, I just want to make sure that it sounded like you thought maybe there was more information than that you received.
Well, I think the bigger part of it is the interaction. And, you know, hearing what maybe Chuck or Bob or Josh might have to say on a particular issue that might maybe influence how I think about something. That's part of how a board should work.
I assume that would happen. It's going to happen at some point, whether it's tonight or next week or tomorrow or...
What's your 2-week blackout, Josh?
Next week,
Next week?
and the week after.
So next week being the 23rd, 23rd, the week of the 23rd, the week of the 30th.
And then the weekends.
So we're gonna, if we're gonna do a workshop, we're looking at sometime after the 5th. Kathleen?
Since this is going to be a workshop with the manager's group as well, should we be involved in the conversation on when our availability is to be able to fit this meeting in? Because we're going to need our group to get together and our board to also be present at this meeting.
You know, typically at workshops, we don't take public comment. It's just,
But we spent 9 hours plus. I mean, I met with Lisa and other times, other parents met with Lisa. We spent a lot of time in our meetings going through this information and presenting our information and doing some of the work for this. So by not having our involvement in this process takes your community away from the program that we've been fundraising for, we've been building community support for. So by taking us away from that, I feel like it's going against the community that's been working for the past year on this.
well, there's still going to be a regular board meeting just like this one, which it will be decided. Nothing gets decided at the workshop. We take no action.
But if it's information that he's looking for, then I think that we have valuable information that could help with some of these questions that you guys may have. Because this was a discussion in our meetings, so if you guys are looking for that, then it should also involve us as well.
Chuck, the board can set up that workshop any way that we please. I mean, we can invite a representation from the Mandarin program to present to us if we so wish.
I think that would be.
Now, you don't have to have public comment and things like that, but there can be dialogue between, a representation, and we can do it that way,
Okay.
you know.
Well, the thing is, we've got a lot of things that we don't take care of this now. Yeah.
So what, your schedule for the next 2 weeks, Josh, is pretty tight then, right?
Yeah, so we're looking at probably, we are looking at 7th, 8th, and 9th is what I have open, and the 14th.
which is, what kind of day is that?
Tuesday.
And the workshop, in order to fit your schedule, would have to be the 7th, 8th, or 9th.
You have no dates prior to that, Josh?
No.
No dates this week?
This week,
Doesn't matter, I'm leaving tonight.
Are you?
That doesn't matter.
It's not gonna work, Chuck.
It's not gonna,
I'm tied up for a week in the first week of April.
17th, 19th, so this is the second week.
I'll be home till the 9th.
well, you know, I appreciate what you got to say.
we're here until midnight, we're here until midnight.
Can I say one thing? I was here at the
Only if the chairman will recognize
Hang
it.
hang on, we're kind of wrapping things up here.
I withdraw my request for a change to
Very well.
agenda.
Understood. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was here at the January meeting, and that was why the two of you decided to have sort of a subgroup, because CPAC was very, very busy, and we had a hard time finding even a time in February when we could meet, because you were going to be on check. So it's one of those things that this is just a problem.
Yeah, I think we've made the decision that we're just gonna hammer this out tonight,
Great, let's do it.
whatever it takes.
Let's go.
Okay. All right.
So one thing, Chuck, let's see, where is that in the agenda?
That's 8C.
Okay, and that's probably where it belongs, okay. Maybe towards the end, yeah.
All right, item 4, consent agenda. Do you have a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5A personnel. Accept resignation of Tina Verbals, bus driver.
I move the board accept the resignation of the bus driver.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Tina Verbals. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5B, accept resignation of Sean McNulty, cross-country coach.
I move the board accept resignation of Sean McNulty, cross-country coach.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Sean McNulty, cross-country coach. Any discussion?
Question, I thought that was working out for you.
Yeah, he, I think, has his eye on maybe some other position.
Okay.
We kind of did it as a fill-in because we didn't have anyone. Please, okay, I'll do it for a year, see what happens.
So do we have someone that may have an interest in picking
I
that
don't
up?
know at this time. We have about 4 positions to post, and we might have talked this week and probably put several in one ad.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Accept resignation of Tony Smith, assistant cook.
I move the board accept the resignation of Tony Smith, assistant cook.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Tony Smith. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 5D, approve 1-year leave of absence for Barb Swanson, drama director, 2015.
I move the board approve the leave of absence for Barb Swanson as drama director 2015.
I second.
Been moved and seconded to approve a one-year leave of absence for Mark Swanson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 5E, approve leave of absence of Rebecca Whitlow, half-season fast pitch coach 2015.
I move the board approve the leave of absence for Rebecca Worklow for 1/2 of Fast Pitch 2015.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve a leave of absence for Rebecca Whitlow, half-season fastball coach 2015. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5F, approve leave of absence for Rebecca Whitlow, assistant volleyball coach 2015 season.
Move the board approve the leave of absence of Rebecca Workla, assistant volleyball coach for 2015.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the leave of absence for Rebecca Whitlow, assistant volleyball coach 2015 season. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5G, approve hire of Carl Johnson, drama director for 2015.
I move the board approve the hire of Carl Johnson as drama director for the 2015 season.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Carl Johnson, drama director for 2015. Any discussion?
Is this a result of Barb's leave of absence?
Yes.
Should I know?
He is our technology director. Hired him 3 months
I
back.
thought I recognized that.
Yeah.
Anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5H, approve the hire of Seth Straybeck, assistant basketball coach for 1/2 of 2015 season.
Move the board approve the hire of Seth Straybeck for assistant fast pitch coach for 2015 season.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hire of Seth Straybeck, assistant basketball coach for 1/2 of 2015 season. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public comment. Kathleen.
I'd like to actually refer my comments to the discussion of the management programs.
Very well. Michael Weston?
Just stay and talk, or?
Yeah.
Okay. I can either defer till later or do it now. I just want to talk in support of the management program and what a great gym you guys have here and what it actually means for this community, and not only this community, but the ones across the river as well. So my family and I, and we have 3 kids now. We'll probably all be bringing our kids over here, and I know the Plotkin's have their 3 kids too. So we both live on that side of the river. We also talked to one of our friends, the Tishners, into coming in, and they have dash and roll. This is such a gem you guys have here. You're a nationwide program, and for a rural community, you're offering your children what like the Seattles and the San Franciscos and the New Yorks of the world are offering their children. It's so valuable, and you're giving these kids the abilities to compete in a global market, and this global market continues to grow, and I just would encourage you to value that program and really realize what you have here. And this community has come together, and oh my God, they're so impressive. You guys gave us a number to come up with, and I think we exceeded that number. And the kind of support that we got from the community down at the Grange a couple weeks ago was just phenomenal. I mean, there wasn't an empty seat in the house. So I just want to say that this is a program that I think is going to unify your community. It's going to expand your school programs. You're going to be having all this support in your sports programs, in your drama programs, in your band programs. And it's all going to start here, and you're laying the groundwork for it right now. So I encourage you to support it, because it's going to be a great thing for you guys in the future.
Thank you. And oh, I'm sorry. My fault. Next is Mary Jane Anderson.
I'd like to defer my comments until we discuss the mayor program. Before I do that, I would like to publicly thank Lisa and Chuck and Bob for the time that they put in to do the working group. It was a lot of hours and different personalities, and it seemed like we all were working like a team. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Okay. All right. Andy.
Hi, my name is Andy Day. I'm a graduate of Nassau High School. I graduated in 1986 and recently moved back to the area 3 years ago to accept a position with the county doing destination marketing. And so I'm living down in Seaview. I have a 4-year-old son. I'm really excited about the possibility of this program. And I have to be honest, this is the thing that is really tipping the scale for me. Of course, I wanted to bring my son and have my son attend school here. I'm very proud of the education that I received here and have a lot of pride in Nassau as a community that values education and puts their students first. So I'd really like to see that tradition continue. So this is a thing that's really going to tip the scale for our family. And I'm really excited about this possibility. And then I also just wanted to say that working in tourism, a lot of people don't realize this, but I get to experience firsthand the profound economic impact that tourism has on this state and on this county. So last year, the marketing work that we did brought in $150 million to Pacific County in visitor spending. Those are people from outside of our area that came here, stayed in hotels, ate at restaurants, bought retail goods, attended activities, attractions, sporting events, you name it. That is a profound economic impact for our county of 21,000 residents. And then I would pair that with the fact that China is the fastest growing tourism market. Chinese visitors to Seattle, our gateway community, for our airport, our cruise ship hubs, and where all travelers come through. China tourism in Seattle is at 125% so far this year. Washington is the only state in the nation without a trade deficit to China. And Chinese visitors and consumers are looking for everything that Pacific County has to offer. So this is a chance for us to give our kids a leg up and a place in this emerging economy. And I'm really proud and hopeful that our community will recognize this opportunity as a chance to keep our community and our school on the map and growing.
Thank you. Item 7, unfinished business. No unfinished business. Item 8. Before we go any further, I have a small concern. And I'm wondering if we could not move Mr. Hickman's report to this time. And if he doesn't want to stay around for the rest of the meeting, then he can leave. Is that right with everybody? Can we have a motion to do that?
We do need a motion to do that.
Do we have one?
Where was he going to be in?
He was going to be under principal reports, superintendent, item 10.
Right.
Or, I'm sorry, item 9, principals, staff reports.
So we're going to move that to item 8. Not what? 9?
We're going to move item 9 ahead of item 8.
Okay. So you're going to do all of 9, or are you going to
You want to do all of them?
separate them out? So we can just make a motion to move Mr. Hickman's presentation to item
Ahead of item
7B.
Ahead of item 8.
There you go. There you go. That work? Everybody comfortable with that?
Is that your motion?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to move Mr. Hickman's report ahead of item 8. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Hickman. You're on.
All right, there's a lot of moving parts here. I'll try to wrap them all up and hit a couple of them in this process. Today, we had a scheduled AD meeting for all the independent schools. And yesterday morning, we kind of got a bomb dropped on us, but it was a good bomb, I guess. The Quinault tribe has dropped their suit against the WI, District 4, Rich Fraser, John Schultz et al. With a couple of stipulations, and they're out there on the board. So, the discrimination suit is dropped by the tribe, the Quinault Nation, if the settlement is based on this new constitution that will restore the league, restore equal participation, and allow a few changes to the constitution to take place. Also, if the WIA Executive Board will add an honorary non-voting position on the Executive Council to have Washington Tribal Schools represented. So if you have looked at the WI amendments, that's already in the works, so it looks like that's going to happen. So just really quickly, this is what it's going to look like, hopefully, when we get this thing put back together again. Well, I'll get to the name here. The old name used to be the Coastal and Columbia 1B Leagues. We stretched from Tahola up north to Maysell down here, including Oakville, North River, Wishkah, Lake Quinault. You know, boys, Wishkah and Lake Quinault are combined, but their girls aren't, so that's Twin Valley, so that kind of throws everybody in a tizzy. Columbia side, those 5 schools have participated together and joined to form District 4 1B for all sports. So that's what it's going to look like, hopefully, when everybody gets put back together again, and Humpty Dumpty gets put back together. Right,
So Russ, that's 1 league?
It's 2 leagues, 1 district. Yep. So last month, Lisa and the other superintendents met, decided that the AD should get together. Now this is prior to this announcement we got yesterday about the suit being dropped. So we kind of didn't know where we were going with this today. But met last month and kind of told the ADs to get together at the end of the month and put schedules together for next year on a tentative basis. Everybody's going to play everybody equally. And the idea then, following year, 2016-17, the league would be reformed if there's no problems with that experimental year. At that point in time, Wishkah and Marion Knight, two of the school districts that are in the lawsuit, the school boards met and both approved this on a trial basis. So now we've got the suit being dropped, and so it looks like it's just going to kind of proceed anyway. We're still going to have a year of kind of putting this together. We have to have, according to the lawyers in this suit, we have to have, the ADs have to have their proposed constitution completed to superintendents, and it's all supposed to be ratified by August 31st for this thing to go through. So there is a kind of a time frame here we've got to do this thing. Really, it's the next one. So the Constitution, as given to us by the lawyers, cannot be changed, but we can add to it. In fact, the lawyers even named our new league for us, and I'll give that in a minute. So the Constitution has to be ratified by August 31st. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. So there was a section to the Constitution that was added as a request by the tribe, centered around discrimination in the process of trying to resolve issues and how we're going to go to arbitration. And so what they did was they kind of used boilerplate language that WI had and kind of added that on the back side of the Constitution. But anyway, it sets up a process for the resolution of complaints. League can't resolve it, goes to district. District can't resolve it, it's supposed to go to WIAA. Okay, so the other things they're trying to safeguard, they want the superintendents to meet biannually to try to get maybe a chance to divert any of these problems that are existing between the schools. The hope there, obviously, is to make sure that we try to fend off any of these discriminatory suits or problems between schools. They propose administrators at each game, home and away. And then there should be wording in the Constitution about sportsmanship, fair play, conduct of the participants, and that might even go so far as counting technicals per kid or for coaches or ejections and those kind of things, and then dealing out some kind of punishment on that basis. Okay, go ahead. So there's also a stipulation in the settlement that there shall be an interhire. We already held one at Lake Quinault this year. Next year, Tahola will host. We're hoping that the students can set a sportsmanship standard for the league that will be uniform and adopted school by school. The students, we hope, will change a new name for the league. The lawyers in the contract and in the Constitution put the New Horizons League. One of the ADs suggested that sounded like a rehab center. Didn't really want to do that, so hopefully the kids will get a chance to be involved in the development of this league, which we kind of need to see. So give them some ownership and be a stakeholder in this process. So we are going to meet again next April, or this coming April, excuse me, with the superintendents to try to start the process of putting the contract and this Constitution back together again and add anything that we want to see as a part of it that will help maybe ease this transition period. And again, the time frame is this new league will not really officially start until 2016-17. So next year will be this kind of intermediate year of just scheduling everybody and kind of pretending we're like a league, but then it'll come. And we're also, if you know about the WI cycles, we're in the second year of the cycle, so nobody wanted to rock the boat and change things anyway, so that's what it's going to look like. Now, of course, all schools have the choice to join that league or to stay independent. But I think we may have learned our lesson that we don't want to be independent and have somebody else decide our seeding for us. So, you know, I would suggest that we get into one league or the other when we get down the road and have this thing in front of us to make some decisions. Lisa, do I move the slide down? Okay, so anybody have any questions? I mean, I know really we really didn't know where we were going today because of the suit being dropped. We kind of had some directions from the superintendents, but now with this suit being dropped, does that mean we're going to start the league next year? And that was the first question we asked. And no, that wasn't going to happen because we're going to be too late to get it going. But all schools are mandated to schedule all other schools. That means Tahola, and that also means Oakville, which has had some problems this year.
Yeah, you indicated in the settlement agreement, you can add, but you cannot change.
You cannot take wording away.
If you add, you are changing.
Well, what we can do is we can add sportsmanship things, we're going to track technical, we can do some things, additions, as long as it's approved by the superintendents and the tribe and the district. So, but we can't take anything away from that contract that we have right now. So that's semantics, I understand. Yeah.
Is it the coming year, this coming year, when classification changes?
No.
It'll be the end of next year.
Year after. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see any changes in classifications for the area?
For us or for any school?
For any school in there?
Not this group, no. No. All of us are middle of the pack at best, and lower end of the pack, like North River and something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of maybe an existing 2B school coming down to 1B.
I'd be shocked if that happened.
Can't come in the middle, can they?
Right.
They have to wait
They have to wait.
2 years.
Yeah, so I'd be classified. So that's where we stand at this point in time. We'll have more information after that next meeting with the superintendents.
So I've got probably a really politically incorrect
I'm
question.
sure you do, Mr. Short.
Absolutely. Now, I've taken a girls' team to Tahola. I've never been so uncomfortable in my life. So what kind of, and that's all I'm going to say about it, right? What kind of safeguards are there going to be once you enter the reservation as far as, you're in their law when you get there?
Yeah.
You know, I was extremely nervous. The adults were worse than the kids. It's an extremely uncomfortable situation. Is there anything at all, I mean, are they promising or anything at all that, you know, we're not going to run into this? I also talked to other coaches where their buses have had stuff thrown at them on the way out. Now, we didn't actually get that, but we were actually escorted by, I believe, reservation police to our bus. I think that's a little ridiculous. Now, have we made any improvements there?
Well, let me just, if you've been following, first of all, their administrator and their AD and somebody else in the district have been hired and evaluated by OSPI. The tribe cannot do anything with those people. So number one, that has been kind of a step that they've taken to try and clean up their act. Second, I'll give you an example. Their junior high boys basketball team had 18 kids want to play. They only found 4 ball games all year because nobody played. So the tribal leaders did come to the realization that they're hurting their kids. So only time will tell on that, but this year was pretty good. When we went up there, I don't know if we have any, Matt, I was impressed with the kids. I mean, if there was a hard play, they reached down and helped us up. Kids want to play. Now, you're right, it's the adults that cause the problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll tell you what, there's some of those in every community.
Oh, absolutely, I agree totally.
So, those are the things that you got to deal with as you go through this thing piece by piece. Now, the other thing is that, Oakville's taken over that role that the Hope has been. All their coaches were fired. Their AD was fired. WI suspended them. They also fined them $1,500, and OSPI and WI are there almost every day monitoring everything that's going on at Oakville. So Oakville's finding the same thing. Nobody will play them. Their baseball team's only got like 4 or 5 ball games. So those schools are getting kind of punished, and unfortunately it's the kids that get the short end of the stick.
Well, there's more to it than that, but I don't
You're
want to
right.
get to this
Yeah.
politically incorrect thing because I don't care to get a lawsuit against me. But it's extremely uncomfortable when you take a team in, I'm gonna say that, or it used to be, and I'm hoping.
Well, I went with the football team, and I was pretty impressed with the coaches and the kids and the way we were treated up there. So hopefully that'll
Yeah, it's been 6, 7 years ago,
Yeah.
so
hopefully that'll be the way that it is.
I'll just add that at that meeting I went to, their superintendent was there, and he vowed to, be all over it, so he was like, tell me, what is it specifically, what do you need, I'll get it, so.
Well, and I did talk to the AD today, and he's not too popular, but they can't do anything about it. He did remove 3 of the kids from the baseball team, and the community said, what, that's never happened before. Well, it's happening now. So hopefully they're going to turn that around. Any
Okay,
questions?
so-
All right.
No,
Yep.
no, I would just like to absolutely thank you for all the work that you put into this. I know you've put in tons and tons of time, and I'm sure that Lisa's probably been involved in that. I know all the ADs have, but this has been quite a task.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I appreciate all the work that you've done in this.
Thank you.
And the motion only is for us. We're going back on this here.
All right, item 8A, approve purchase of 20 Apple laptops and storage card for carryover Title I grant funds not to exceed $28,000.
I move the board approve the purchase of 20 Apple laptops with Title I grant funds not to exceed $28,000.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of 20 Apple laptops and storage card with carryover Title I grant funds not to exceed $28,000. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8B, approve resolutions 141503 and 141504 to acknowledge and accept completion of the study and survey process.
I move the board approve resolution 141503 and 141504 to initiate completion of the study and survey.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolutions 141503 and 141504 to acknowledge and accept completion of study and survey process. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8C, approve Mandarin immersion program for 2015-16 school year.
I move the board approve the Mandarin immersion program for 2015 and 16, a maximum district cap of $25,000.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the Mandarin immersion program for 2015-16 school year at an excellent district cap of $25,000. Is there any discussion?
Should we dare first?
There's plenty of taffy, well, there was back there. I don't know if that's the age or the. Stuck in our
I have a suggestion to make before we get into discussion regarding the audience. I would like let me just say, I would suggest that we have our discussion without interruption. And at the end of that, we invite questions or comments from the audience.
I appreciate that.
And if we have discussions that they can answer, we can do that. Okay.
I guess my first question is, I just would like to be brought up to speed as to the discussions you had. You know, kind of the things you went through, that if there isn't anything that's on the document we have in front of us. You know, the proposal as it is stated, you know, I just have some questions about that in itself. I guess I'd kind of like to just hear a little background of the needs that you and Bob have.
Well, I can tell you from the last meeting that the Mandarin Parent Group has raised $25,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, $25,000 to add to the program funds. And I believe they've got some grants in process, is that correct? Grants in process.
So the grants in process are,
We won't know about the grants until after the deadline of April 15th.
so what kind of grants are they? I guess we said that we can have our own discussion on this. But
That's okay.
I can speak to that. We have a few really excellent possibilities, but we partly are waiting to make sure we have the full spectrum of support before we submit those. We don't want to submit them and then realize we need to adjust those. But for example, the Stewart Foundation, I've worked with them in the past. They have a really great prospect. They fund programs for education in our geographic area, and I believe we have a really good shot at getting funded from them. We also have several other ones in the works. We just, well, some of them have deadlines that are farther out, but also we need to make sure we write them with exactly what the community needs in mind. So we're kind of at your disposal in that regard.
So are the grants, they have to be used for a particular purpose, I'm assuming?
Well, we would write them with what we want in mind. So if we want to use the funds for a teacher, if it's facilities we need, if we need the grants for some kind of staff, whatever we need them for, that's what we write them for. So they can be adjusted if we want to be able to give a good status update. Typically funders want to see, the fact that we've had such a successful fundraiser is going to really play really well into our ability to bring in additional private money, because it shows diversified funding, reduces risk, like they want to get behind something successful that has a big group of people behind it, so we can really demonstrate that. So that improves our ability to attract private foundation dollars. Also, the fact that we have, we're in a rural community, one of the only programs of this kind in a rural community, magnificently increases our chances as well. We just have a lot going for us in that regard. So we're pretty excited about the upcoming prospects. So,
Crystal, how much is the Stewart Foundation grant for?
I think we could write it. I wrote a different one for another project, totally unrelated. I think we brought in like $200,000 for annually for 3 years. We should be able to bring in a significant amount. Of course, we want to plan it without that, in case it doesn't come through. But I mean, that's only one foundation also, so we expect to be able to. And if this program is off the ground, we could write grants for other things too. If we're able to solidify this, we could maybe move on to other things, so.
Any of the grants pertaining to the coming school year?
Amy, what was your
I
understanding?
missed the question.
For the coming school year? What is
Any of the
it?
grants pertaining to the coming school year?
No, they don't.
Okay, so
I
right
think
now,
that's for the following
we
school
are
year.
about $8,000 short of what we need to execute next school year. Even considering the fact that the school district is obligating $25,000.
And considering all of the apportionment that Lisa has provided.
That's right. With those, even considering those offsets, and that assumes 2 out-of-state students. If there are more, then of course that changes things.
Well, that leads to my first question. Because the information I got didn't allow me to get there. I could not, from the date I received, process that. I was wondering about that. You know, where did we really stand when we got down to the bottom? Were we in the black or were we in the red?
Yeah, I think if you saw the one that was on today's report, it showed, just like the IRS forms, it showed, it was in red figures and it had parentheses around there. That means it was a loss of $12,900 this year is the projection. Okay, and so the school district authorized the program for this year with funding up to $25,000. And Lisa at this point is projecting that we will in fact spend $12,900.
So we're spending $11,100 less than what we have.
Well, the maximum we had kept.
Yes.
That's right.
Okay,
Right.
but next year,
Next year, you know, there's guesswork involved there. Right now, if we're assuming that there will be 2 new students from out of state, and that's the only out-of-district students that will be showing up. If that's the assumption, then we're about $8,000 short, even with a maximum contribution from the district of $25,000.
okay, that leads me to another question about how we're defining the apportionment and what we're saying we're contributing to. Our K program is full-time.
Correct.
Our taxpayers are paying for half of that.
For what the state is paying.
The state is paying only for half.
Well, they're paying half of what they would apportion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and so I'm not seeing the logic of using 3,000, you know, the apportionment's 6,000, but it's half-time. Why, if they are being educated for a full day, why are we only assessing a 3,000?
We're assessing 5,000.
For kindergarten?
Yes. For all out-of-state students, we are assessing 5,000. The reason is because that's what Astoria charges for out-of-state students.
It's in district, that's the 3,000 for other district students for kindergarten, is that correct? Or-
Yeah, I think there's 2 questions.
Yeah,
If it's in state, then we get whatever.
Are you asking, sorry, go on.
Now, go ahead.
I think are you asking what we received from the state for a Washington student for kindergarten?
Yes.
Okay. So if you look up here, there's a lot of information, so I will go to the green. The BEA, the 5741, and then the 2870. In this model, I have used round figures, but if you want the exact numbers, they're the green number. Okay, so I contacted both OSPI and our business manager, and ESD, I guess that's not both, but 3 entities, to ask them exactly what do you claim that the state contributes to for a student, an in-district student, elementary student. And you have to ask elementary because high school students get other enhancements. There's vocational enhancements, there's small school enhancements. So it gets rather convoluted. But they said if you go on your budget sheets and use the BEA, which is called TAM for Basic Education Allocation. So the exact amount this district receives from the state is $57.41. We have been using 6, and we've halved that at 3 for easy math. We won't give the exact numbers, but this model uses 6 and 3. So, I think what Steve's question is, well, if you get X amount, why are you using Y? The state contributes $28.70 for a kindergarten student. So, when we have considered what we call a write-off, in other words, what we're calling additional revenue by getting a student from somewhere else, we have used a write-off of half of that, or the $3,000.
Well, my concern is, all the kids that live here, the parents pay taxes, pay for our M&Os, and, you know, they're paying for that additional half day. That's an added cost.
Yes, the levy dollars are definitely paying for a full day.
And so I don't believe that number is accurate. It should be adjusted accordingly.
Are you saying you think that we should be charging people coming from out of district for our full day kindergarten?
Yes, to some degree. There should be some adjustment to offset that.
Where are they different than the first grade, I guess, is, to add to the confusion, since they're both full-time?
I'm not sure what happens. I'm not sure who else has half-day and full-day kindergartens here in Southwest Washington, where some of our district kids would go. Okay. Are we talking about the same arrangement if one of our district kids goes to Ocean Beach?
I'm not sure what you mean by fees here.
Do they have half-day kindergarten or full-day kindergarten?
Karen, you know?
It's full day. Full day.
It's full day, so
Transferring a student from full day to
it's a
full day.
reciprocal arrangement. If one of our kids goes there, the state sends that $3,000 to Ocean Beach. And Ocean Beach does not charge our district kid the extra to support the full day. So it's, you know, it's a reciprocal arrangement.
So what I'm reading there is 2 out-of-district kindergartners, 1 Oregon student, is that correct?
That's a breakdown of, let's just, I would like to lump it as out of area. So we have, when I say out of area, we have out of state students and we have out of district students. So in kindergarten, currently there are 2 out of district students and 1 Oregon student.
Okay, so the out-of-district students were collecting how much?
They pay $5,000,
No, out of district, not out of state.
sorry,
3 apiece.
3 apiece, roughly.
3 apiece times 2 is 6, plus the 5 for the Oregon student, totals 11.
Okay, exactly.
and we did pick up 1 just a little bit ago.
So my point is there's not a huge offset, there is some. Correct? If you consider the 5,000 that the parent is paying coming from Oregon.
Right, if that was a Washington student, we would collect $57.41
Right.
instead of 5. Well, excuse me, not for kindergarten, it would be half of that.
So really the concern is the out-of-district students more than the out-of-state students.
Well, I think the concern I'm hearing is probably both, because we attain a certain amount of money from the state. We don't feel that's enough money, so we run 11. So the local tax base fulfills that gap. The, no offense, Oregon students and out-of-district students don't contribute to that for here. But like Chuck was saying, there are other reciprocal agreements. I mean, we have students, families who live here, whose kids go to Oregon, and I presume they're paying their taxes here, but their children aren't here. And there are other neighborhood swaps, I guess, if you will, for lack of a better term. But it is a point I've heard, expressed, and, I don't know if we have a real clear answer for how to address that, other than it happens all over the place. School boundaries have become much more blurred, so.
Up until now, it really hasn't been a factor because it's never been used as a funding mechanism for a program. Now we're shining the spotlight on it, we're saying that
Right.
before the management program ever existed, this mechanism was in place. You know, I don't know if we ever had Oregon students come prior, but we always had out-of-district students. But those funds would come and they would go into the general fund and they would be dispersed for the good of all. Now we're diverting those funds specifically for a purpose. And we're diverting a rate of, well, you know, if we talk about 3 teachers, $180,000 a year just for the teaching aspect alone. You know, I can see this thing becoming so insurmountable if we can't get the grants or the fundraising, or right now, we call it a cap of $25,000, but it's really not a cap because we're reaching into the district general fund and pulling out $6,000 for every out-of-district child, and you're pulling out $5,000 of the general fund for every out-of-state student. And then on top of that, I understand this proposal to be if you have a sibling who comes who's not in the management program, we're going to reach in again and take another $6,000 or another $5,000. And so to me, I just really having a tough time coming to grasp with that. We're in a fork in the road. We've always done it this way. We've always said that the money is going to come into the general fund and it's going to be spent for the good of all. Now we're saying we're going to take those dollars and divert them, and it could be a very large amount of money at some point, depending on, and I understand this group has worked very hard, but there is no guarantee that those funds are going to be here. You know, there's no guarantee that we're going to get those grants.
Right.
Okay,
And that's
so-
potential would be very expensive.
Now, it's my understanding that when a student comes from out of district, the district that that student comes from, that money comes to this school.
Correct.
Well,
It's supposed to be sent from that school to this school.
oh, did you say out of district?
Out of district.
I'm sorry.
Out of district kids, say, look, one comes from South Bend.
Right.
The portion that goes to South Bend, South Bend is supposed to send it when they allow a kid to
It
transfer.
doesn't even go to South Bend because they're not on their sheets that they turn in for
We're
pay.
we're just reporting one more kid.
Okay,
we
so,
get funded
Just
for one
comes
kid.
right to us.
alright, so
But
I'm a little bit confused.
Well, it's just one
no,
less.
it's just like we get another
kid
kid
that
in our
gets
district.
No, I get that, and I understand that. What I don't understand is where this $6,000 shortfall for each out-of-district student that we're talking about right now, where's that coming into play?
You mean by shortfall, I guess.
Well,
You mean the levy difference? Is that what
no, isn't that what you were just saying, Bud, that,
Well, I'm saying that prior to, you know, if we take the management program completely out of the picture, and somebody came from South Bend,
okay,
they brought along with them, Lisa's using the 5741, I use a $7,600 figure, so there's another
okay,
thing that we don't agree on the financial page, but that money came directly from, it's just another kid came, it's another increase in enrollment, and that money came in our regular monthly apportionment, went into the bank, we spent it for the good of the whole district.
right.
What I'm saying is now we're circumventing that, that money's coming, it's still coming to us, but we're stopping short of going to the general fund, it's going directly to the management program to support the management program because it needs the money to be able to thrive.
That's,
I see a problem with that. I'm asking the board here, does anybody else see a problem with that?
I have just been down that path a little bit in my mind, and I decided that the way that I should look at it is that that's money that this school district would not have had were it not for the management program.
So that's a true statement.
Yeah. So when those Mandarin kids from out of the district show up here, the only reason we have that money is because of the program.
So what
If
if
the
not
program
somebody?
goes away, those kids go away, the money goes away.
Exactly.
No, I think that's,
So why is that different than another child coming to our school who doesn't take the mentoring program?
Because we don't have we don't have a programmatic reason for that kid coming to the school district to attach it to. We're not trying to balance expenses versus costs on a particular program with that student. We are on the program. And I realize that there may be more than one way to look at that. That's just how I've chosen to.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I just see we're treating one group differently, another group, and we're doing something totally different than we've ever done before.
So, in the past, have we had out-of-district kindergartners prior to the immersion program come to our school? Okay, so when that happened, we were still funding the full kindergarten day, and we were only receiving half of that money.
Correct.
The other half of the money was coming from our own local taxpayers forever, however long this has happened.
That's correct.
Well, I don't know if full-time kindergarten has been in place any longer.
Well,
than
how long
immersion.
kindergarten has been, put it that way.
2006.
Okay. So since 2006 roughly, we've had that situation. Now it's in the last 2 years, correct? We've had the immersion program in place. Correct?
Yes.
So sort of, we've had to sort of eat that for, math isn't that good, but 5, 6 years.
Well, the board at that time apparently made the choice to do that.
I don't know that it was ever brought up to us, ever.
I don't think it's ever
It
been
never
an issue,
was.
because it's just been kind of on the sideline.
The first time I've ever heard of that situation, I've been on the board for the past 5 years or straight. So I understand the concern, but I think that sort of has been there for a while.
Oh, I'm not questioning that at all. I understand that.
I think the plus side is when we have students come into our district that we wouldn't have had otherwise. I mean, that to me is a plus side.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I'm just talking about the funding mechanism.
Oh, I don't think it's perfect for sure. In fact, we've had quite a bit of discussion, you know, in our work group about exactly what we should be charging. I've never been comfortable with it. I thought right from day one, and everybody that's been in that meeting, I've been very vocal about, I thought it should have been higher from the start. But it was sort of this goodwill thing. We were going to get this going, we were going to charge $5,000 because that's what Astoria charged our kids when they went over there. So that's kind of how that number came about.
And they still do.
Yeah.
Yes, I called them and said, look, you've already.
To me, you don't have a gray area. You got a kindergartner coming in, charge them what it costs to educate that kid. Plus, you know, I shouldn't say plus, with the local taxpayers' money also. I mean, because you're not getting that for that particular student coming from out of state and or out of district. So, whatever that number would be to educate for a year a kindergartner, that to me should be how much we charge that parent to bring the student in. First grader, same thing. Whatever the state allows us is what it should be. My opinion. For what it's worth. Then we don't have this shortfall, we don't have this discussion about, you know, local taxpayers' money being used for out-of-district and or out-of-state students.
So you're saying we should be charging out-of-state kindergartners like $3,000 because that's what we get from the state? K through 5, $6,000.
No, I'm saying we should be charging kindergartners exactly what we would receive from the state plus local funding. Whatever that number is, it's fair to the local taxpayers, it's fair to the state, and as a first grader, that's also fair to the second grader, same thing. Then there's no gray area. It's all right out there in front of you.
So that would mean for K through 5, it would be more on the order of $8,600, $8,500, something like that.
I mean, that would protect the local
The
taxpayers.
$5,700 from the state plus 26 from
Right.
the levy.
Which is assuming though that for every child every additional student who enters, our costs of doing business go up at that exact rate. Which, you know, we can have a lot of students without the heat bill, light bill, teacher cost, my cost, Karen's cost, those things don't go up proportionately with every student or equally, I should say. So,
Well, right, but my cost in my business doesn't go up if I buy a lawnmower and fuel costs very much. But if I buy an excavator, it goes up considerably. So at some point, there is an increase, and I voiced this very clearly in the work session, that at some point, you just can't keep absorbing that. So I do agree with Steve and Bud in that respect, and I've made that very clear to the people that were in the work group, that at some point, we've got to come up with a hard number, rather than using this gray area number, and it sort of costs this, but we don't really know what it costs to actually educate a kid. We get this much, but it really doesn't cost that much because we still have the lights on, we have the heat on. You can't operate that way, I don't think. Forever, you have to, I don't know what the easy or the difficult solution is to this, but there has to be a number that we can all be comfortable with.
Is that agreement cast in stone, Lisa?
which
All
one?
the five, you mean?
Across state,
With Astoria?
yes.
No, we can change it.
Well, I think it's a minimum, absolute minimum. They've got to be paying our portion as a minimum. I mean, I cannot believe we're not pursuing it.
The kindergarten parents would probably be happy to know that because it will be a lot cheaper for them.
Yeah, give me a copy for the kindergarten.
They're paying more than what we get from the state for our own students. And
Well-
they're paying $700 or some less.
Well, but that's not exactly 100% true, because they're paying more than what we get from the state, but then the local taxpayers are picking up whatever it costs them to educate that kid through.
Okay, but that's the policy regardless of where the kids come from or why. Okay?
So, I mean,
You know, if we were gonna change it, we'd have to change it across the board. You know, if a student comes, if a high school student comes here from Ocean Beach, we'd have to charge them the portion levy amount too.
well, actually, and I might ask Robin a question, but I think that there should have been groundwork laid for a full year, which I asked for in the first place when we delayed it the first time, to come up with all these numbers rather than fumbling through this like we're stubbing our toe in the dark all the time. Because we don't have hard numbers. We keep, I think it's a great program. First of all, I want you all to know that. I think it's a great program. But as a board member, we have to have numbers to work with. We can't just sort of be, yeah, you know what, it's a great program, so we'll just go ahead and make it happen. I'm willing to actually do that, okay, with a $25,000 cap. But there should have been groundwork laid a year before it ever even started. And it didn't happen. There was a whole lot of things going on there, I think, if people remember back when this was all happening. So I think Robin can probably actually speak to that a little bit about what we should have gone through. Now, whether we want to go through that time right now to do that, but I would actually recommend that if we do have a workshop in the future involving Robin into that, I know that's his expertise in setting that program up. I'm not saying that the rest of you that put all this time in, I do know that Robin has a degree in this, or maybe even higher than that, I don't know. But that's my concern with it, has been. For right now, we're stuck with the task at hand. I think it's a tremendous program. And I got to tell you, I was skeptical from the start. But I can see how it really opens up a child's mind. Not even talking about the possibilities later in life. It changes, I've done some research, it changes the way a child learns. And if you can do that in this little school, to me, is the hugest thing ever. I have a little grandson that's 6 months old. I hope that he's in that kind of a program. I'm not his parent, so I don't have that. Trust me, I'll be pushing towards that, right? But it's a tremendous thing. We have to work this out and make it work for our kids. That's the bottom line to me. Is it perfect? Is this perfect? Heck no, it's not perfect. We all agree to that. It's not perfect. We know that, but we need to come together. I think involve Robin in that if he's willing. The rest of the immersion parent group, this board, get together and let's make this work. You know, but for right now, it's not perfect. Absolutely not perfect.
Well, yeah, I'd be delighted to take part in the workshop. And you're right on, you know, talking about, this is neuron building. You know, it's not just learning another language. It's much, much more to it than that. But you're right, the groundwork wasn't done, you know, before you hit the ground. But we need the time to talk about that and get it done. We got to maintain the program we need done.
That's the way I see it, but, I mean, I'm just one board member here, so, you usually know what I'm thinking. I don't think anybody here denies that. I'm not gonna sit here and just be, you know, quiet, because that's truly the way I feel. And you can disagree with me or agree with me, I don't really care, okay? Because that's what makes sense to me, and that's what I'll base my decision on when it comes to that. You can go over these numbers all night long. And this costs that costs this. Yes, it does. We need a better solution to make it work. Bottom line to me. Let's move forward with it, in my opinion. Watch it very cautiously, because we are talking about local taxpayers' dollars that are being spent for this. Did they vote to spend that? I don't know. Can you answer that? I'm sorry?
A parent can opt their child into the program.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the local voters. M&O. Was there a line item there that said, I will vote or I will use my tax dollars to pay for that? No, there was not. Okay, so you understand that? This board's going to step out on a limb and use local tax dollars, if we do it, to partially fund this. Okay, so our necks are on the line here.
Who made the brochure for the levy?
It doesn't matter at this point.
No, stop.
They voted
No interruptions.
No, it's done.
No interruptions.
So that's my, I'll be quiet right now.
Steve, I think you had your hand up.
Okay, I'm going to steal some of Bob's thunder. I think a lot of you parents have a perception of me. It existed when I ran for the board. It existed prior to the March 3rd meeting last year. I want to share something with you. I'm going to be giving a presentation, facilities presentation at the end of the board meeting. And so I've been doing some work down at the message board and doing some layout and whatnot. And I was down there one day, and it was right at, when school was getting out. And I was over on the other side, on the DOT side, and I was trying to take a photograph, perspective view, so I could take it home and do some drawings with it. And cars were coming by, and I had to wait and whatnot. Well, it wasn't too long, and here comes this black SUV. And I recognized it. It was my niece's SUV. And the back window was down. And the vehicle come by, and all I heard was, "Ni hao, Uncle Steve." And I responded back, "Ni hao, Dee Dee." Now, what I want you people to understand, I appreciate, I value what this program is doing for our kids. I appreciate and value the cultural experiences that they're gaining out of it. But how this program came to us and the costs that are undefined at this point are my issues. And so that leads me to March 3rd of last year. Many of you were there. That was the meeting in the Commons. And you spoke loud and clear about your support for this program. And the one thing this board came away with from that meeting was, you will raise the money. We heard that over and over again. We will raise the money. And with that, that was a caveat that got my vote and other board members' votes at the next meeting, that you would raise the money. But, and so we advocated for a $25,000 one-time fund for this school year. That was the motion. But now, your group is just assumed that, well, we've done it once, we're going to do it again. And that was not the premise with which I voted for. I'm kind of a black and white guy. You know, it is what it is. And when someone tells me something, I expect them to be accountable for it. And so that's my conundrum, is the money. And if you take our 25 grand out of this scenario, where are we at? And so, you know, and what Lisa, what you're telling me is if we make this motion, we're going to be going into it $8,000 short. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying if we made the motion, they still have 7 or 8 to come up with before we even move ahead because we're not there yet.
Well, that's basically what I said. We do not have the funds to fund the program at this time. If you take their fundraising and all of the dollars that you're showing up there that we're contributing, we're going to come up short.
Correct.
Lisa, what was the actual cost, or what is the actual cost from the district for the immersion program this school year?
How much did we spend?
Out of the taxpayer money?
3 questions. So, the projected cost for one college board teacher?
No, that's not what I want to know. I want to know how much the district, we're saying we will cap it at $25,000. What was the actual cost? Did we spend the $25,000 that the board approved for this particular school year, not next year? What was the cost?
In this model, I say no, because we have counted those offsets into the mix. So we have what we've spent, it's about $45,000. We have what we are calling offsets. Okay, so we think about this is where we want to go. This slide here. Okay, so money generated from tuition out of area kids coming into the program, $32,100. The reason I say cost of one college board teacher is because our other teacher is pretty much entirely paid for. We have 2 grants going on here. We have College Board and TCLP. So we've been using College Board. So if you have a contribution of $32,000, an expenditure of $45,000, that would be a shortfall of what the district has paid of $12,900. So less than we have committed to using this model. Now I realize there's some argument or different viewpoints saying, well, we don't agree with the offsets or we don't agree with your basic education.
Okay.
So
that was the question, yes.
okay.
Was, and we can all kind of disagree with the different offsets and how much actually this costs and how much the state actually sent us. And I understand Buddy's point that we receive more than whatever it is that we show. More like 70, how much, Bud?
Well, I'm just saying the cap, we're calling something a cap, and it's not a cap because we call it the offset. So if you put the offset in the cap, that's truly what we're contributing.
How about we call it cash?
Yeah.
If we call it cash, I think that would clear it up a little bit. We're saying here's $25,000 and we've spent, 12, or however you want to do it. I think the whole issue this boils down to is the offset piece. Because what I'm hearing is, I'm saying we've counted it, 1 to 1. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, because you could have 20 different answers to the question of how much does it cost. And 2, we realize it's a startup program. We were okay, I'll speak for myself, I was okay with figuring it in its most lenient form. We didn't say, well, how much levy dollars is contributing, because that varies. Our total collection doesn't change, but if all these Oregon people and the beach people move up here, every one of you is going to pay a little bit less. So it's not going to be $2,500 per student anymore. So these are evolving numbers. They change. How many kids are in the program one day? How many are in the next? How many move from here? The state changes the basic education allocation lately every year. So there's a lot of layers to unravel, which makes it difficult. So we've taken a lenient model. Yes, it's to the Mandarin side of the ledger, and I was fine with that, and I am fine with that. I realize it's a startup program. It takes a lot of time and extra energy and effort. So probably better labeled would be 25,000 cash. So in that model, we have not spent what we said we would for this current school year. Now, probably was another question I got on my soapbox, so I might have to repeat it, because I don't even remember it.
So,
Go ahead, Rob.
well, just a question to the immersion group possibly. And so last year when we approved the $25,000 to go towards the program, at that time, how much money did you have? Because right now, we're asking you, how much do you have, right? We want to know how much you have to contribute towards it. How much do you think you had then, you know?
Zero. We've raised $25,000 in 2 months. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, that was my point, is that you guys are further ahead than where you were last year. Correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, the big difference for this coming year is that we lose that TCLP grant. And we have to at least 50% fund.
Okay, and so for everyone involved, how much was that, or is that?
Well, that's another teacher. That's another 45,000.
But it was funded by an outside source through the grant. We really didn't spend any money on that teacher at all. Very minimal.
So really, the bolts and nuts of it, or the nuts and bolts of it, what are we talking about then?
Dollars for next year?
Yeah, I mean, is there gonna be a difference because of the
Yes.
TCLP?
Right, we lost it in the sense that we were eligible to apply for it, but it would have cost us as much as hiring our own. First couple of years, you can get into it for virtually nothing. Third year comes along, it was about, I think, 35,000 for half of the teacher. Well, if we were to hire our own half teacher, including benefits, it wouldn't be that much. So we kind of said, well, that isn't gonna work. So there are other granting opportunities. So for now, we built the cost based on either a college board teacher or hiring our own, I would call them rock bottom basic ed beginning teacher. A basic ed beginning teacher, in other words, a bachelor's plus nothing, essentially. And when I say nothing, I mean no additional credits, never taught. The base pay is $34,080, I believe. So we always have to add on another 35% for benefits. So a very beginning, low academic level, I guess, teacher is $45,000. Well, so that's also the amount we have spent on a teacher through College Board when you consider the other expenses. So it's the same. So we said, okay, for next year we would need 2 teachers, so you double the 45 and get 90,000. So that's what's then led to, okay, well, we contribute 25 and they have 25, that's 50. Then we also felt it fair to consider what we're calling revenue offsets. Okay, who came here that wasn't here in the first place to be in the program? We have assigned a cash value to that based on what they're paying for tuition or based on what the state now pays us because they're here. So that's how it all came to be, and it's certainly not perfect, but I think it's definitely fair for now until we come up with something better, if that's what we choose to do.
I think at this time it's important to look at Steve's questions.
Well, I've got a couple of questions. How is the 25K that they've raised going to be gifted to the school, and when is that going to occur? I think it's bad financial practice for this board to even approve this motion without that money being in the pot. They said they would raise it. That needs to be in our account. I think that needs to be a caveat of whatever we do tonight.
The money will be made available in August prior to the next school year.
And I guess if it's not, then we don't proceed.
Don't we sign contracts prior to that?
Well, renewing teacher contracts, it's May unless the omnibus appropriations hasn't passed, which means legislature's still in session, then it's June 15th. We don't like to wait that long because it leaves people up in the air.
Does that apply to the college board?
That wouldn't apply to grants, but they're going to want an answer from us well before that, but, you know, I was thinking of a motion in terms of just setting a cap or a cash contribution. Then I think we've done our part and we wait for our partners to do their part. If the rest of the money doesn't flow in, we're not obviously going to bring in somebody or hire somebody because the dollars aren't there.
Why is the money not available till August?
It was set up as an endowment, so it's invested right now.
Right, but what made you think that we were gonna wait that long?
Well, I mean, it was set up
We
that
didn't
way
ask
because
the
the
question.
understanding was that there wouldn't need to be a drawer on that
I mean, isn't
salary.
that sort of, kind of, just sort of saying, well, we'll just give it to them whenever we want to?
Well, it was a little bit difficult because the school wouldn't help us with 501c3 and wouldn't give us a place so that we could put these funds. So we literally spent almost 8 months of our time trying to find a location that we could put our funds in. So we came up with the very best that we could in those 8 months, and this is a solution that we had. And so then the next 2 months we spent was trying to raise the funds for this. So if we would have been more engaged and had some more conversation, or if the school would have been working with us in the beginning to help us have a place to put these funds, then we wouldn't have been in this issue. But the money is there and it is available, and if you'd like some sort of letter from us stating that those funds will be made available to you, or a guarantee, then we are willing to do that. This program is in the best interest of our group and of our children.
I'm confused. What did the school have to do with the 501c? I heard that.
We didn't have a place to put our money because we needed a 501c3 so that when we received grants or when we received donations, that we could give a letter back to those businesses or those individuals so that they could use it as write-offs.
We had a place to put it then? I guess I'm.
So
confused.
you did not. We couldn't give directly to you, so we had to go to another place to be able to put those funds.
So I
So
understood you to say that because the school wouldn't help you with the 501c. I'm confused.
it's not that it wouldn't help you, but there was no way for us to give the school the funds. There was no mechanism, there was no way for us to be able to give you the funds as we were raising them. So we had to find another way to do that. The only other option we had was a 501c3. Due to the time crunch that we were under, we couldn't put together our own entity within that time frame. So we had to find another umbrella to be able to house that money.
Well, I don't like it, to be real honest with you.
Well, I mean,
Because for me,
we can
as a
discuss
business
that.
owner, if I was in a partnership with you, and we were gonna try and come up with this project that we were gonna do, and we need the money by a certain date to do the hiring, whatever, or get the equipment, and all of a sudden you tell me, well, you can't have it until August, but yet I gotta start the hiring process in July or June, then I'm holding the bag in that process, correct?
So, I mean, that's what you do with a letter of credit. We could give you a letter saying that we guarantee.
I'm just saying, I told
X
you guys
amount.
in the workshop
Yeah,
that we
I mean,
did,
and that's-
that we were gonna throw everything at you guys, and that's why we tried drilling you in that.
And that's.
And
that's
this
what
part,
we
I
can
asked
do.
the question, and it was not answered in that. I didn't get that answer from you guys. I don't remember hearing August. Did I hear August?
There's 2 times, maybe it's first.
I honestly, I don't know the timing of the funds.
It
is relevant,
irritates me.
But,
And I'm just now finding that out right now.
but, it gets back to my concern of them saying they're gonna raise the money, and here we are approving funds, not even knowing really formally if we have their money. So, that's a concern. But the other thing, there is policy on gifting, and we need to follow that policy. I can't recall, I think it's 6212 or something, I can't remember the number. But we need to make sure that whenever we are at that point, that we do accept those funds through that motion by the board.
Good point. Haven't heard anything from Josh. What do you got to say?
Still don't have a lot to say.
That's okay.
The numbers make sense, and I like taking it all in. I'm on the other end where I have a student in it right now, and so I'm really biased on. I think this is a great thing for our school district, and I think we need to make sure that we can make it work the right way. And it's harder to put a foundation on a building than it's hard to start, and I think that's the pains that we're seeing. But when I have my kindergarten come home every day, and kind of teach me new Chinese words, it's amazing. So, I don't want to break the bank, and I want to make sure that we are laying the correct foundation now, and we're doing it the right way.
Well, my question is, if you're forecasting us being $8,000 short, where's that going to come from if we get to the point where all the money's been, if their funds have been distributed and we're 8,000 short, where's that going to come from?
Well, two places. Right now, we're projecting 2 out-of-state students come in and none leave. So one possibility is that we get more than that added to the program. That's one possibility. The other is that the parents group comes up with the shortfall. That's the other possibility.
Lisa, what is, and maybe Karen, now our first and second grade classes are only running, they're running about 48–50%.
Yes, that's.
Karen, do you know those 2 classes from one year to the next, have they lost kids in the immersion program?
I've got a whole thing on that, because that question was asked of me today, which is why you got that information today.
Do you have that?
Yeah. I've got, I'll have to give you.
We've lost kids, but it's not necessarily, they're not, it's not just because of the mangrove. We've lost kids because they've moved away. And
Well, Karen, my question is, last year we had, say, 12 kids in the program.
Okay.
If this year we got 10 kids in the program, we've lost kids.
Yes, we have.
And so if they're saying they're banking on raising kids, but we've lost kids, that probably is going to predicate, we're going to lose some kids again. I'm wondering if there's any history of showing from K to first to second, a decline in, you know, some parents, I mean, there's a little bit of controversy with this program. And some parents will get into it, and then some have chosen to back out of it. So if that's an issue.
2 comments. One, I have that information in I should have said, the first comment was the slide I just moved away. That had the most up-to-date information. So we went through all the numbers again today. The request to provide this information and had the latest and greatest. So that's why these things came out today, because it was updated from the last time I sent it. It was a month ago, and our enrollment changes every month.
Which slide was that?
The last one I was on, where I said the 32,100 in contributions is reflective of today's data. So that's why I resent that, and then that's why I also provided this. So what this is I'm going to show you some now snapshots and then some longitudinal data as much as we have it. I don't know if 2 or 3 years is longitudinal, but it's more longitudinal than not. So this shows you a couple years of a snapshot. So at this, can I have a pointer?
No.
What? year, we had 23 students in the Mandarin part of kindergarten. Not the total number, I haven't got there yet. But we had 23 students in Mandarin. On our March count, we had 18. So you have overall change of 5 throughout the course of the year. Down below basically summarizes what those changes were. So 2 opted out, or backed out, dropped out, however you want to phrase it. 3 students moved away. So as of the beginning of March, we have 18 students in the Mandarin part, there's 29 students total in the class.
And you had 1 come in.
Would you?
And one from Southend that came in.
I just came.
He's in that number.
He's
in lost.
Oh, okay, so it's
That's accurate today.
Lisa, let me interrupt you just 1 minute. How does that work if that was a out-of-state or out-of-district student and they paid $6,000 or $5,000 respectively, and they opted out but remained here? Would we keep the money?
You mean if it was out of state?
Well, either way,
They pay-
out-of-district or,
Well, that's
yeah,
just
working,
that's
yeah.
pay, and we get the money through a portion of it through the state. Out of districts do pay, we charge twice a year, $2,500 each time. I don't remember the installment once, Maryland Brown does. I think we've already ran through our second installment for the year.
Yeah, I guess I'm really asking 2 questions. If I come from Oregon, I'm gonna bring with me $5,000.
Right.
And I decide after the first week, I don't like it, I'm going back to Oregon.
Well, probably first week we wouldn't have billed you yet.
Okay, so, at the minimum, if I'm there a couple weeks, I'm gonna pay $2,500. And if I go the second, any part of the second half, I'm
Right, I
gonna
think
pay
the
$4,500.
second pay is January.
So, having said that, the second part of my question becomes then, students moving out of the program for whatever reason, is that offset taken back off of the,
I took it off.
yeah, I mean, so that's just a moving target as the year goes along,
Right.
as to what,
There's some plus, because there's in and outs and gone and back and, yes.
I'm sorry.
No, that's a good question. So, kindergarten, we just reviewed, now this is first grade students. Now, we have a little bit more longitudinal data here because these students were here in kindergarten and then came back for first grade.
So the 2013, I'm sorry.
Okay, so these are existing first graders, but when they were in kindergarten,
Okay, those are same students.
same students, 18 of them were in Mandarin. When they rolled around the next school year and they were in now first grade, 16 of those are in Mandarin. Currently, as of March, same school year, this is all the same school year, this lower half year, there's still 16. Now, is it the exact same 16 bodies? No. There was a change of 2 from when they started, but 2 dropped, 1 moved, 1 was added, so we're pretty much all consistent. The 2 didn't return the next year, they changed their mindset, not for me. There's 32 students in kindergarten right now, so half, 16 to 32 are in. Same slide for second grade, same type of slide. So I guess if you look at the September line, this is how many started, the top line. This is how many there were in kindergarten, excuse me, first grade, there were 21. 14 of those rolled over into the start of their second grade year. And currently there are 12. Now this grade level's seen a lot of movement. So it's 9 total change from when it started in between first and second grade. And of those 9, 5 moved, 2 dropped, and then in November, 2 more dropped. So in all, there are 26 students in second grade and 12 in the program. Now, just to compare, because I thought, well, we should look at all the elementary numbers, not necessarily just Mandarin numbers, so we have a broad picture of what's going on in our elementaries as a whole. So I have a slide on that now. this is ironically or not, I don't know, but this slide's quite a bit different. And I don't know if it's just kids, they want the program, I don't know why, but our other grades, which are 3, 4, and 5, I didn't include 6th grade because we consider them in our middle school logs. They're just elementary students, which is what I'm talking about here. And I don't have longitudinal data on these, I'm just looking at movement throughout the year. Karen might have some other reports over there. But so for 3rd grade this year, we have seen no movement in that class at all. None in, none out. Now that's kind of odd, I think. I mean, that's great, but that's an aberration. That doesn't usually happen where no one goes. 4th grade, we've seen an actual increase of 2 students, and 5th grade, we've seen an increase, 2 students. So, whatever, I mean, I'm not saying that's related to the program or not, but it is sort of an odd pattern. It probably, requires some more investigation. But it is true that, about 2 students seem to be dropping out of the program per year, 2 days at least.
So that's going to offset the 2 students you were going to use to recover the $8,000 deficit.
And this data is shown in the last slide. So that was the hot off the press, today's numbers.
Lisa, out of the students that are in the immersion program that we lost from one year to the next, how many of those are still in district?
Oh.
Are you talking about?
I'm talking about the kids that we lost. Did they leave the district?
No.
They're still here, they opted out of the immersion, what did they do?
It said if they drop for the move.
Yeah.
On each slide.
Did they move away?
The drop.
Or are they still here, they just dropped the immersion
Drop means
program?
just drop, move means left the district. Somebody go back to it, and go down.
Okay, well, I heard movement, I heard drop, I heard move.
It's at the bottom of that. I don't know why it's in there. I don't know how they said it, that's a new thing.
Has anybody dropped who were here from outside the district?
Yeah, outside
They
district.
moved, but I don't believe.
Yeah, it says at the bottom, drop means just stay here, but stop the program, move means totally new district.
So if they came here from outside the district, they
2 dropped, 3
The
moved.
students who have come from outside the state, it's our own, the ones from themselves who have dropped.
I think there was one student who was here but moved, right? I'm not supposed to say names, so,
Just now, this, yes,
yeah.
but moved away.
Questions on that part?
So, kids coming in and out of the program, they can only come in at kindergarten or 1st grade. If we have a fully, I guess K-5 is what we're talking about. And then if at some point we have a K-5 Mandarin program, and a child comes into the 2nd grade, my understanding is they are not able to get into the Mandarin program. Is that correct?
They could test in, and the teacher could talk to them and see if they have any language, but if they don't, it would really hold up the rest of the children in the class, and that's why they don't recommend that at all. Now, we did have a student last year in 1st grade. The mom wanted him to choice in, and so since he had come a couple months after the school year started, and because 1st grade had just started the program along with kindergarten, we allowed that child to start, but then they didn't stick with that particular child. That did well.
So are you saying that there's testing in even in 1st grade?
They can test in, yes. They could actually test in 4th, 5th, or 6th grade if they came here and had Mandarin, and yes, we could add them to the program, but we wouldn't want to take someone who's never been in a Mandarin program and all of a sudden just,
It's unlikely.
it's not.
But the reality of the program is, we can lose kids in the Mandarin program, but gaining them is going to be difficult at best. we're gonna drop, we're probably not going to rise. And so you're gonna be losing FTEs as this program moves forward. FTEs in the Mandarin program.
As they get older,
Overall?
because they can't test.
Not overall, but in a particular.
In a particular class.
Right.
Yeah, as it moves up, it's gonna continue to decline. You can't, you know, unless you have an exceptional child, and they do exist. I think one did test in, but,
You're right.
that, you know, that's the reality.
And that's true, Steve, honestly, when we went to Seattle, and I spoke with, you know, the staff there, and Michelle Aoki from OSPI, and her name escapes me right now, but she's from John Stanford International School, where they teach Spanish, Japanese, and Mandarin, and Mandarin being the largest now. We did say that students, they do lose them over the years, that they don't stick with it for, you know, 12 years, not even 9 years, that they will have a tendency to break away from that. So I think the hope was here with this program was to go through 5th grade and then have an elective when they were in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then they could take high school level Mandarin via, you know, online. Didn't necessarily have to have a teacher anymore now, because they could do Mandarin if they're that proficient. They could take online Mandarin or AP Mandarin, so that they could have a dual language coming out of NACEL. I do know that there was a student here, and I'm trying to think when he graduated, 3-4 years ago. He wanted to take Mandarin and online, and so we allowed him to go ahead and take that. We, you know, when the kids proved proficient. And after, I want to say a quarter, he dropped out. He just could not stick with it. It was a very, very difficult language. So for these children to be teaching it out as they are is incredible. But I will say that they do drop out through proficiency.
Is there a limit to how many kids can be in that class? Have we set a 50-50 limit, or is there, I mean,
In the Mandarin class? Like
yeah.
No, there's no limit.
I mean, what happens when we come in with 25 kids out of 30 that want to take it? I don't know.
And the 25, because last year's 1st grade class had 31, and 21 of them were in Mandarin.
Okay.
There were only 10 of the English class.
73% on this year's kindergarten.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very high. It's
I can see that going up if you are bringing kids in all the time. They're coming for that purpose.
One thing to keep in mind too, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but there is the possibility that the state could fund programs like this. There is that possibility down the road. We don't know if it'll happen or when.
Well, it's not going to happen if someone doesn't go to the legislature with it. I spoke with Brian Blake a couple of days ago about that. And he said if we would send him a proposal, he would consider it. So that's something this board may want to consider is, you know, I told Brian I couldn't ask him or prepare something. I would have to work through the whole board. But that is certainly an option. So, but that's, you know, I mean, you're talking next year. You know, because I mean, it's too late to introduce bills.
Well, I'm surprised actually that they would even consider anything with all the requirements that they've got on their plate right now. All the things that they absolutely must fund. I don't think they've got the money to fund everything they must fund.
What was the discussion amongst the group as opposed to McClary and the initiative just recently passed to reduce class sizes in K-12? The initiative, you know, it specifically talks about K-3. You know, we want to get 15 to 17 kids in each class, right? And the upper grades, I think it's 22 to 25 or something like that. And then the Clary comes along and it's saying that we want to take away your local tax dollars, ship them off to the state, we'll give them back to you and call it full funding. What kind of discussion did you guys have and what was the result of it?
Well, I think we just decided that it's too early to speculate on what the legislature might do. And could definitely affect plans.
And if we require all those rooms to be split, then we do not have enough.
Well, just in the management program itself, you know, we're going to have 3 additional rooms, right? And 3 additional teachers. And if it has to be split, then we'll require another additional 3 teachers and another additional 3 rooms. So just in that segment by itself, we're talking about 6 total teachers added to the district and 6 new rooms. Is that a correct statement?
If they do nothing to adjust the numbers out or compensate for that, yes.
But, I mean, if we have to split it,
Right.
the kids come back as a whole in the second half or the first half, I'm not sure how.
Split out.
Then we have to split it once again. We need a classroom, we need a teacher for every 2 grades.
Yeah, but if you remember the I-1351 wording, the onus is on the legislature to provide the funding.
Correct.
Yeah,
Infrastructure.
right. They can't impose the requirement on us without giving us the money to carry it out.
And that's
regardless.
Wouldn't that be a change though?
No, because we'd be 3 less classrooms and 3 less teachers in them.
Right, but if they reduce the class size, partially, we still have to find additional funds.
Okay.
We'd have 3 instead of 6.
Right.
Wouldn't
we
that
still
be
have a
achieved
problem.
with the Manders program? Because you would already have the existing 3 teachers and 3 classrooms?
It wouldn't be quite as big if we didn't have the immersion.
Exactly.
Steve?
Okay, Lisa, you've taken us up through 2nd grade. So, you know, in 2017, we need a 3rd teacher. Is that correct?
I have to pencil it out. When it's all said and done, up through K-5, we need 3 teachers, so. Whatever we're on now.
This coming year works with 2.
Right.
The following, we need
Right.
another one.
Right. Right.
16, 17.
Right. 17.
16, 17.
So by then you would need 3.
And that's fully funded. I mean, that's the program as you know today.
So the year after this year that we're talking about, we're going to be having to have another teacher. At a minimum, bare minimum, $45,000.
So more burden on the parents to.
Well, I guess, you know, where I'm going with that is, you know, something I advocated a year and a half ago is, you know, we needed a long-range plan. But here we are limping down the road, kicking the can, and what I'm hearing is we don't have the funding for next year. But we're going to go ahead and adopt it and roll the dice, I guess. I think it needs to be made perfectly clear that if that motion passes, that and that deficiency still exists, that they come up with the money, period.
Well, I kind of see a decision point. You know, if the motion passes, it's a contingent motion. So then there's a decision point at some place in the future, and maybe it's not the board that makes that judgment, maybe it's Lisa that makes that judgment. Are we going to be within that $25,000 cap? And if we're not, then we don't take the next step. If we don't get the money from the parents group,
And you believe the motion that's on the table will cover that?
I think we could have that understanding. If we put a cap in there, then it is.
Well, I had an understanding last year. Look where that got me. They were going to raise all the money. We're talking about 50 grand that we're putting in here that they said they were gonna raise. So, I think it needs to be clear what the motion is, because Chuck, next year, we're gonna be doing this same thing with this same group of people. But it's gonna be a bigger group because there's gonna be another class size. They're gonna have a louder voice, and they're gonna be wanting their program, and yet we don't have a funding mechanism. And I'd just be curious to know if Lisa, if you've looked into, I know, board members have mentioned it to you, have you looked into running a special M&O to fund this program?
Yeah, we've talked about that, and actually, the timing is critical, because I'm not so sure you can run another M&O. Once you already have one in place, I don't think you can go out for a supplemental unless something changes at the legislature to allow that to happen. So our M&O's in place till, what, 16, 17, 18. So it'll be sometime after 2018. So I don't really think that's an option.
I asked a question I already knew the answer to, but I wanted it on record here.
How'd it do?
Was that the answer?
Well,
Is that fast?
you're right, it would take legislative action.
That's my understanding that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike, I'm sorry.
With that being said, and the support this program has, I guess I'm at a loss of why did we fund this with the last M&O? It's got no brainer. Why did we put it on the M&O? You're talking $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, whatever, put it on the M&O. And then back to the question of, Bob was talking about, the price of doing business. I do a state budget every year. They give me a certain amount of dollars, and right off the top of it, I don't agree with it, but right off the top of it, they call it overhead. 28% right off my budget for overhead. So if you worked out something like that here, whatever the administrative cost is, whatever it costs to put these lights on, whatever it costs to keep the building, whatever, it's not education, whatever percentage of dollars that is, that's what the overhead cost of any program. If it's 10%, if your budget's $100,000, 10% of it's got to go to overhead. That's going to pay Lisa, it's going to pay you, it's going to pay the lights, it's going to, whatever that might be. I don't know what that percentage is, but it shouldn't be too difficult to figure that out.
Why isn't that part of this equation? Why isn't that part of the cost of this program?
The overhead? The light?
Your time, you can't tell me Karen has not put a pile of time into this program.
You're right, I can't. I won't, because I'm right there with her.
Well, there's a cost associated with that.
I guess the reason we haven't is because any startup program we know takes a lot of extra time and energy. And, I guess in the beginning we saw that as, that's our job. I mean, the program is here and we have to do it. And the board probably doesn't want to bill. So, but, if you were to add our time, I'd say it's probably easily 20,000. So.
Is there any reason it wasn't put on the M&O? Is that?
Okay, as far as the M&O, we didn't say, Mandarin, we said maintenance of existing programs.
Right.
Well, it is an existing program, it has existed. We didn't break out a lot of specific things by M&O because our.
That doesn't necessarily mean breaking it out, we didn't raise the M&O, it went down.
Well, it went down to you, the taxpayer, but our total collection went up 20,000, which we saw as a great win.
Right, but could we make that collection another 50,000, whatever it took?
Well, legally we could have, but we felt that we didn't need that much money. I mean, our levy was $1,092,000 and $129,000.
And what are we at?
715.
So, I don't know, I guess it seemed like we were short of funds, why did we put some more on that M&O?
I guess because the district didn't want to fully fund the program, we wanted to be a partner in it, but we can't spend $200,000 a year on the program. Right now, you're right, we could ask the taxpayer partially done. And it's quite an unraveling process.
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of point out, and maybe shift things forward a little bit. And, you know, as the board charged with the long-term vision of the district, I guess, you know, this seems like something that might create growth in the district. And I guess I would ask if there's a viable alternative. Is there something else that is going to, you know, promote growth in the district? And I guess to look at, you know, I mean, I imagine there's a threshold number as far as how many students do we need enrolled to keep the doors open and the lights on? And if this might not be a way to preserve this school district into the future.
Or do you want it small?
Lisa, you may not have this information, I'm not sure, but maybe you do. Do you have any idea what it costs to implement the CBA when we first started?
I don't have that information.
Karen, do you remember any of that? Marilyn?
I mean, we could go back, you know, we had to buy some computers, we had to convert a room into, you know, that type of space. I mean, we wrote off costs to it, some earmarked for the program. For example, John was paid as half CBA principal, but John was here, you know, before the program started, so you can't necessarily totally assign that whole cost and say that was half of his day. You know, seven teachers probably were in there.
So my point is there was an inherent cost in starting the program, and the whole premise was that it was going to create more funds available for students in our district. Then we got hit with legislative decisions that cut that, so it sort of stayed kind of status quo, I think, or we maybe made some gains. Within the final year of the K-12, it did actually grow. So my point is, I guess, is the vision there was exactly what you were saying, is that it was to promote growth and create more funds available for the district. So I understand exactly what you're saying, and that at that time I know that was a vision of the CBA. It did create a higher ending fund balance. It basically held us through some pretty tough times with a pretty good ending fund balance, as I remember. So I guess my point is, yes, there is some risk. Now, is it going to grow as much as the CBA did? I don't know whether it'll do that. There could be some growth, I suppose. Life's a gamble, right?
Steve?
Lisa, your goals, your performance goals, is there anything in there specifically that addresses the emerging program?
Not specifically, you talked
Okay.
about,
That's the answer I was looking for. Okay, but you do have a goal to promote a vocational program, correct? Okay.
understand,
What we're talking about here is spending $57,000 on a program that's not part of your performance goals, where that $57,000 could hire a teacher and promote our vocational program.
the actual goal talked about expanding the programs as a whole, with the emphasis on vocational. We've also, Karen and I have spent the last year and a half getting us in a position to be able to add STEM at the 7-12. So, which part of that's vocational STEM, science, technology, education, and that.
So to sort of, I think, maybe kind of add on to what you're saying, Steve, is that since I've been on the board, I've pushed and shoved and everything else to try and increase our vocational program. And every time that we look at that, the number of students that would be involved in that is so low that it's hard to justify the cost of increasing it. I mean, because you're talking in some cases, maybe 8 kids, sometimes 12. That's what I've been told every time we've talked about it. Every single time. Prior to Lisa being superintendent, it was the same thing. I kept hearing that. So I guess that the goal to increase our vocational is a good goal, and I think it's locally oriented, and it would help some kids that may otherwise not get the type of training without, you know, there's some kids, let's face it, just are not going to college. And, you know, the point was, what are we offering those kids? And I think that we're failing, actually, in some cases. Now, I think we're doing some things, and I know that Greg works hard on that. I know that Lisa's trying to expand that. So you're talking about a pretty small number, and I don't know what that is offhand, okay? Maybe you can add some numbers to that, Lisa.
There's about 85 kids in high school, so you have to be pretty selective about what you offer, and we do let, to a large part, students' interests drive what we offer. I mean, our students are our clients, so we put out a bunch of classes that they don't want or can't do or whatever, you know, it takes a little work. You don't just say, well, we're going to do this.
You have to be very selective and
What you can afford and what the students want.
Well, Bob, to your comment about being told there weren't many kids and all of that, what I understood happened, and was going to happen, was the previous administration was just simply going to phase out vocational programs. And, you know, it's going to require the administration and the board, the community, to want it to happen. But the STEM program, I think, is a great program, but I don't believe it's targeting the kids that I'd like to see have benefit from a true voc program. It's those kids like Bob referred to that aren't going to take the college track. And, you know, if we build it, just like this immersion program, they'll come.
But they won't get paid as much.
If we were to hire a teacher and establish a welding technology program, I guarantee you, that class would be full. Kids would be coming out of this school ready to go to work somewhere.
we want to be careful of our comments, okay? Because I didn't go to college. I gross quite a bit of money each year. I don't have more than a 12th grade education, okay? So we want to be extremely careful about, you know, I benefited a lot from welding, wet shop, wood shop, auto shop, things like that.
My dad's.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's whatever, wherever your niche is, right? So, anyway, go on. I'm just mid-thought, my senior moment, lost it.
Well, we have a lot of things on the table that we're trying to accomplish.
And there is a motion on the table that you're supposed to stay on track with.
No, there's not.
Yes, there is. You guys made a motion to,
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Either-
We're in the discussion phase.
But in reality, the board can take that discussion phase anywhere they want to, really. If I'm not mistaken.
Go ahead.
The way that I look at this mentoring program is that it is a vocational program. The reason I'm so passionate about my daughter learning this language is I know that there's a 20% bump when she gets out there. We are a family that went to college, and that is good to a certain extent, except for we all know that there are lots of college degrees out there right now and they're unemployed. But the fact that I've given her a language, the A has affected her ability to think, and B will carry her through the rest of her life. And then C will give her the ability to bump. When we were out fundraising, we were sitting in the bank in Astoria, and the president was telling us that the day before he had a Chinese couple sitting in front of him, only spoke Chinese, He's like, try opening an account when you can't speak the language. He's like, and he asked us specifically, are you training your kids to go over and take, to go over to China? And we're like, no, we're training them so that they can stay here and have great jobs. And that is our intention, and that is what drives our passion. If you give us a bigger number, we as a parent group will get that number. Just give us a number and stick to it, because I'm serious. I personally felt like our community voted with that festival. We could have sold more seats, we didn't have room. It was the biggest venue we could find, and it was packed. Sold out. Sold out. We had contributions coming in the night of. I mean, it was amazing what we did. It exceeded our expectations, but it didn't exceed the community. No matter where I go, when I talk to people, no matter what they're doing, they endorse this program. But I am passionate about this because I feel like I'm giving my child a better future. This is not easy for our family to do. It is hard. We went to preschool at South Bend because that is where our natural bent is. We are a family that generally goes north. But we have turned our lives around to come here for this program.
And I think that the ideal goal for this school is to be able to offer the vocational, offer the Chinese immersion, drama, art, right? We've got to figure out a way that we can offer these things to our kids being so small. That's got to be the goal. It can't be one against the other. Okay, we got to stop putting one against the other, in my view. Let's get one thing done, then let's work on the other one. Right now we have the opportunity to address this one, but it cannot stop there. It can't stop there. You got to keep working towards the vocational and towards the drama and towards the art. Right now, what are we offering for art?
0. That's part of our plan for next year.
Yes, right? And that's the way we have to look at this. Let's stop comparing one to the other. I've got a ton of questions. I've got a problem with different things, correct, about this. But if we don't move forward, we move nowhere. We stay in the same mud puddle, spinning our wheels, for layman's terms, right? So we can only fix or improve one thing at a time, but if we improve nothing, we go absolutely nowhere. And if I would have sat with my business as a one-man band for another 10 years, that's where I'd be, a one-man band. But I took the initiative to grow and to employ 12 people. Very proud of that. 12 people I employed, okay? But it wasn't easy. And I had to make some really hard choices, and I had to go in debt to do that. And sometimes we have to do that, I just don't know what else we can do besides try and move forward. Let's stop moving backwards. The CVA, we had to take a little step back, but we're hanging on to it. We're trying to make it work. And it's helping some kids. It's bringing in us a little bit of money. Same with the immersion program. We're trying to do what we can to hang on to that. In my opinion, we should. But don't just think that we shouldn't just stop there. And I know that Karen doesn't think that way. I know that Lisa doesn't think that way. I know for a fact Marilyn doesn't think that way. You think about all the things that Marilyn's been involved in this district over the years. And she should have an absolutely huge round of applause for the things that she's done and Karen has done. So we can't just stop. Or get run over. So, to me, that's the bottom line. Yeah, it's going to cost a little bit of money. It's going to cost some taxpayer money.
Can I just say one thing?
I can't recognize you, but the chairman can.
Okay, one more thing, and then I want to work on getting this discussion.
Okay, I just want to say, as part of the parent group, I did stand up and ask last year, if we could have a number and a date, and we were told a number and a date, and I guess I'm a person of my word, and I feel like we did that. So I just want to make sure that was like, we did our part that we thought we were supposed to do, and if that number's changed or whatever,
Not really.
What number do you think?
He said it did.
What number do you think you were
He
giving?
said 58, she said 57.
But here's the problem that I have, okay? Trust me, I am for the immersion program. I know it's a good program. But when I find out, when I come to this meeting, that the money's not available until August, then that's a problem for me, okay? Because I thought, and I don't know, maybe I was just in my own mind that it was going to be available right away. I didn't know that it was stuck in some account until August. I thought it was going to be able to be transferred into the school's account. We would be able to use that money. But I sort of feel misled, just a tiny bit, okay? And I don't think that was your intent. I really don't think that was your intent, correct? No, it was not.
That's my point.
But do you see where that's coming from? Do you see why I feel a little bit misled?
Well, I guess I didn't really realize that because I didn't think that the funds were needed until next year, so they would be available when you needed them, right?
Well, but we got to start planning now.
Right, and so the funds are there, but I guess my point is I don't want to be like the parent group and the school group. I want to work together.
Yeah,
And we're out there, and I mean, we're working hard. I'll dig a hole from here to there if that's what you want us to do. And I will do that. But I just want to make sure that we can work together. You know, I have 3 kids here, and I will do anything for this school district, and I'm so grateful for it. But I don't want to be on the side of like, that's the parent group or that's the school group. Let's work together. Let's get our numbers correct. Let's get a goal. Let's move forward. And, you know, I just don't want it to be so, I don't know. That's just what I want to say. And I don't want to be offended by saying we didn't do what we were supposed to do, because that's what we were told to do,
Okay,
you know?
but I'm gonna say something. The number was 50,000 as minimum. I said 50,000 for starters, and we're saying 25. So, you know, honestly, it's not even close. That's a long ways off. So, I mean, 25,000 in 2 months is great, but it's still a long ways off. Now, with these things we have considered offsets, I can prove it. I have the email, I have the response. We could say we don't need that whole amount, but the number was given, and it's
Right.
it's not there. At the moment, I'm not saying it won't be there tomorrow or when these grants fall through, but to say we gave this number, we did it, here we are, is, I just have to say that's a major issue in my mind.
Well, I think that's a little bit of miscommunication on everybody's part, just because maybe we weren't sure, you know?
Okay, let's see if we can get through the discussion.
Ask more questions. There's more questions, Steve, but
I'm actually ready to call the question, Chuck, but before I say that, I would suggest that the board convey to the superintendent that we would like her to work through the immersion group for them to provide her with a notarized letter that they have the money and they will be dispersing it at a given date, and have that for the next regular board meeting or before we have to approve the grants, whenever that is, whenever the grant approval is. So that some closure to knowing, in fact, that those funds are allocated. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. Yeah, there is a date when we absolutely have to know that our $25,000, if we approve that, is not going to be exceeded.
With that said, I'll call for the question and I'm going to request a roll call vote.
You need a second on that call?
I still got questions.
Okay.
I gotta get back on my financial bandwagon. You know, we're talking, the amount of money that's gonna cost once this program is fully implemented is around $180,000 just for the teacher salaries. Is that correct?
45 times 3?
Well, 45 is it really is a range. It depends where the teacher falls on the salary scale, but the lowest level teacher with 0 experience and a bachelor's degree is 34,000. So without benefits, so the cheapest teacher you can get is 45,000.
That's with benefits.
With benefits, yes.
And
probably it's going to cost around 6,000. You just zip, you don't know where to fall until you're there.
So 60 times 3 teachers, 180,000. So that's
what we've kind of been using.
yeah. Now, in addition to that, you know, we talked about other costs that go along with that. And like, do we have teachers' aides and those type of things that are part of that program? And, I mean, is there, when I was in the, just sat in the merchant class, I thought every class had some sort of teacher's aide or something, and other labor costs. But why is that excluded?
Well, really, those aides are, parapros, are there, they're under Title Lap funds, working with Title Lap students. So.
They're funded out of another program.
So those funds would be available, and the district isn't.
No, we haven't paid for any aides to be in the Mandarin program.
So that's always been my concern from day one, is the cost of the program, you know. And so if we talk $180,000 minimum, I mean, that's minimum when you have an established K-5 Mandarin program. Which, I mean, is that a fair thing to say?
I think it is.
And so if you run that through, you know, if you've got a child entering a program that's in kindergarten and he graduates 13 years later, right? So he's been in the school system for 13 years coming kindergarten, and you multiply that times 180,000, what are you? You're over $2 million. Is that?
Going through 5. It's like K through 5. It's going to K through 5.
Well, true, but do we stop funding the program every year? Does it cost $180,000?
Right.
Once we have 3 teachers in place.
Right, I mean, just because the kid goes into 6th grade doesn't mean that we're going to drop $180,000 off.
No, because you got another kindergarten.
Exactly. So that $180,000 is into eternity.
Right.
Well, you don't have a child for eternity.
We have a program.
I guess I'd kind of like to keep the discussion here if you could. So that's all I'm saying. I don't want the district to put its head in the financial noose, and I can see that that could happen. I mean, I think we're being blind by just looking at $180,000 as the cost of this program. It's not. It's not just $180,000. And I think we are embarking on new territory where we're diverting funds from the district to support the program. We call it a cap of $25,000, but yet we turn right around and grab another $6,000 for every student that comes in. And I know you don't just, you say it's because that child wouldn't have been here otherwise, that would make a difference. You know, and I'm saying, why is that child any different than any other student if he comes here not being in the Mandarin program? We don't allow that for any other student. If I came in here as a 1st grader and chose not to go into the Mandarin program, I want to say I want to have some sort of special schooling for my $6,000 that the state is going to give me, or $7,200 or $7,600 or whatever the number happens to be. But at the end of the day, my concern isn't this year, it isn't next year, it's the program as it would exist, as we would know it, and what we're going to put upon future boards and the district. That's my total concern. It's been from day one, we have no financial plan. I still don't like the financial plan that we have, just because we're using those funds in a way that we never have before. And now to make it even worse, we're saying if your brother happens to come along and he's not in the program, we'll take his funds as well and drop them in the program, and we'll use those funds as long as that child, as long as there is a child in the Mandarin program.
You don't need a motion, Chuck. Any board member can ask for a roll call.
No, I mean, to ask to call the question. That's what I'm asking.
I'm just asking you to vote. Go ahead and ask for the vote.
Very well. The motion is...
Chuck, I'm not sure that I'm through here yet.
Oh, my apologies.
I'm sorry.
I just got to go through the notes I made here to see if we've kicked about everything I think that the wanted to ask.
So Lisa, my understanding is how we have this written here and how we are going to approve or not approve this motion is that we are agreeing to go ahead with conversion, and we would only be financially tied at $25,000.
Correct, considering those offsets on that spreadsheet.
And if we can't make it work out, then that's for you most likely to decide to end the program, because we would be going over our $25,000 if we can achieve this $8,000 gap or
I think if
extra funding of the $25,000.
I mean, my recommendation would be if we're short of that and we don't have the money, then we revisit, you know, is it no program or is it something lesser? You know, is it an hour a day, is it hire one teacher, is it after school, is it gone, is it, you know, well, we pay the extra, I mean, there could be multitude of scenarios. I wouldn't say that just ends it in my mind, but I think it would end that particular, you know, everything we talked about here, the spreadsheets and numbers. To me, it wouldn't just end it all together, but I mean,
But there would be some.
that would have to come up for another action item, or what it looks like going forward.
Is there something else?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. That's my concern always has been, is financial. And is there any way to amend this motion, or do we have to vote on this motion?
You can amend the motion.
So
You can move to amend the motion.
I would like to move to amend the motion, if that's the proper language.
Do something with the one on the table.
No.
Well, his amendment, request amendment requires a second, and I will second it. And then,
Yes.
well, but we're not voting on the total motion.
That's right.
We're just voting on the amendment.
That's right.
And so he's going to present whatever it is he wants to amend, and then there's discussion.
Right.
And then we're going to vote whether we're going to accept that amendment once we understand what it means.
Right.
And then I think there has to be a second vote to approve the total motion.
Correct. You're exactly right. We vote on the amendment first, and then if the amendment is approved, then we vote on the motion with the amendment.
Yes.
If the amendment is not approved, then we vote on the motion as is. Okay. So you want to move?
Well, I've got two different flavors. I don't know how I would approach this. So it would be Amendment A and Amendment B. So
One at a time, I think.
So Amendment A is just simply to strike the moving the funds out of the general fund into the management program where that diversion occurs. I would want to make that amendment that that part of the proposal doesn't include that diversion of funds.
Okay, I don't understand.
Okay? So right now, the proposal is saying that we will cap at $25,000, but that's really not true because we are giving a credit for every child that comes in to the district of $5,000 or $6,000.
Okay, so your amendment would say that
$25,000 cap period.
not to include the offsets.
Exactly.
That's B1 or A or B or, I'm trying to write this down.
Okay, let's deal with one at a time.
Let me see here.
We can take them we can hear them and then take them one at a time. Okay?
And the other amendment that I would propose is the Mandarin program just exists within what its confinement. So if the district says, hey, we're going to give $25,000 to the program, and the Mandarin program says we're going to raise $50,000, now there's $75,000, let's do what we can with the program. And that would be, do we offer, can that cover? Probably this year could cover, next year might be able to cover. But if it doesn't, structure the program so the Mandarin program stays alive. We still have it, but maybe it isn't K-5, or maybe it's reduced hours, maybe it's not a half a day, whatever the program will support. And then the one thing I don't like about what is being brought to the board is you are encouraging recruiting of outside of our district students and out-of-state students. I think that's totally wrong to recruit. I think if they want to come here on their own volition, that's great. But to go out there and actively recruit kids to come to our district, I believe that's wrong. Well, you are, because you've got a group representing that's recruiting kids to the school because of the program, all right?
They can ask for themselves, but no, we're not.
Okay.
So going back to the amendment proposal for B would be that this program has to exist, that the district cap it's at $25,000, right, with no additional offsets. That was one. And the second is to have the program exist where the district gets $25,000 and whatever the Mandarin program can raise, then they would live within those confinements until they could expand the program.
Buddy, just a clarification on the $25,000 cap, would that be a $25,000 cap, or would that be $25,000 cash that would go to the program? And if they didn't use it, it would be, for...
Oh, I would use, I would say the district has a stake in $25,000 that shows that we have an interest in the program and we want to support the program. I would say, that they didn't use it. I don't know how the mechanics work, but I would be totally in favor of that.
Okay, I'm really struggling with the second one because I don't think we have defined what the Mandarin program is. So I'm not sure that second one is even necessary.
Well, right now today they told us, the group told us that they have $25,000, right?
Right.
We have $25,000 that we have agreed that we could. So
yeah,
amendment A would be $50,000 is what the Mandarin group can spend.
No
Structure of the program around
no offsets.
Pardon me? No offsets. That's just a total package.
That's in amendment A.
If I said 25.
What did I just say?
Well, he's got
25 or 25.
Okay. That's it.
So B would require that the Mandarin program be restructured to live within the constraints of the funding provided by the district and the parent school.
Yep.
Let me see if I can write down B here.
What was going to be the procedure, or are you going to have both of these?
We're going to deal with one of them at a time. That's the only way
So we're going to amend the motion twice, and we have the word capped in there already, which to me means we're not spending more than $25,000. I really think that we're muddling this up, to be honest with you.
With these two amendments?
I just don't see any sense in it, personally. I mean, a cap is a cap. You can, I guess you can, I don't know why you want to call it cash.
No, I
But if the district, if the board is saying we're going to spend $25,000 or less, not over.
But we're not, because we're taking the offsets. So that's in my mind where it's confusing about the term cap. Cash doesn't make that any clearer.
we're not gonna take any input right now, sorry.
Thanks. Okay. So we have Amendment A that's been moved, which is not to include the offsets. All right. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion about that? Is there a call for a roll call vote on that one?
I would like to, you fine.
All right. Josh?
No.
Bob?
No.
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I will vote no. That amendment fails. Amendment B. That the program be restructured to live within the $25,000 provided by the district plus the funding available from the parent group. Did I state that correctly?
That includes no offsets either?
No. The offset one has already been voted down. Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second my own motion.
I'll ask one more time, is there a second to that motion? Motion dies for lack of a second. So now we are left with just the motion as stated and as proposed, as moved. One more time, is there any further discussion on that motion?
I think we're putting our heads in financial noose if we go ahead with this. That's my final say.
Okay. Anything else?
The only thing I would say is we're only approving this for 1 year. The next year, we're gonna go through this whole thing. So I'm hoping that we have brought Robin into this, anybody else that can help us with this, and come up with an actual financial plan that can at least make most of us happy or somewhat satisfying. But it is 1 year, period. That's my last.
Yeah, we've got, obviously, things are gonna have to be a lot better prepared if we in fact vote for this, which we have not done yet. All right, we've been called for a roll call vote. Josh?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
No.
Steve?
No.
And I will vote yes. Motion carries.
Karen?
Okay, all right, we have item 9.
I don't think anybody's seen it.
So Lisa mentioned that PSD 112 contacted me, myself and Lisa via email last December, and asked of our interest in a rural school opportunity. That what they discovered is that students in rural communities do not have their children who are into the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So they had an opportunity for a federal grant and asked if we'd like to be part of that. And I said, sure. So, in talking with Lisa, we said, hey, you know, it's a great opportunity, and since it is for rural, and there's a lot to it.
Karen. Folks, if you want to have your own meeting, could you take it to the other room, please? Thank you.
So they said, okay, this will start out at grades 4 through 8. It's a 3-year project with approximately 6 professional development days built into it for staff, and actually for the teacher and then admin, and they'll be together throughout the year. And what they will do is partner with regional So that's ESD 112, but that can include, ESD 112 is the state. And so, anyways, we would partner with regional elementary middle schools to support the engagement of students from our school and their schools to partner in these STEM activities. And then the teachers will learn directly from businesses, community partners who are working in the STEM industry, and to make them aware of the challenges that are faced by students who go into these areas, and to help them to understand what, that it actually can be an opportunity, that there is something out there for them. Teachers will also learn about all the research that supports STEM, and then they will be more specifically targeting girls in STEM, because that's where the concern is, that there aren't enough girls going into that field. And then they'll make recommendations for the programs. And then we'll have school-based teams developing action plans for building and sustaining that, and then what is the curriculum that is needed for that, and what other opportunities can we provide for those kids, with a focus and emphasis on careers beyond high school and going into college and developing that. So it's a great opportunity for our students because we haven't had a lot in that area. So we jumped on board and also supported it. And so Urbina is our contact, and they applied for the grant in December and just received notification that it was accepted. So we're ready to go. And it will involve like 2 weeks in the summer, 1 to 2 weeks for the teacher, and a week for the student or students involved in it. And so what they want is a cohort model. So they want to be able to stick with the same students year to year and track them, and then take it on up into high school. So it's kind of an exciting opportunity for our kids. And then I'm not sure, oh, there it is. So there's Team Force, and back in February, on February 5th, the students faced off against 18 teams in the 1B and 2B schools throughout Southwest Washington, and they came out 5th overall, and so they were in second amongst the 1B schools, and so they won the opportunity to go to state. And so last Saturday, they went to Arlington, Washington, and competed in that state tournament, and they came out 7th overall. Now, the interesting thing is, up until that point, they did really well on the written test. For some reason, the written test didn't go as well for them as it had. Just, an unfortunate thing. And so, because of that, when in the end, they used those written score results to place, and so they ended up being 7th. Ironically, the teams that placed 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, our teams beat in the oral rounds. So had they done better in the written rounds, they would have come out in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place, so up in the top 3. But you know what? They did a really great job. There they are. There's Emily Jovic, Kyla Wolf, Owen Zimmerman, Mr. Lang, their advisor, Abigail Bennett, Amethyst Orkola, and Ricky Waltonay. And they did an outstanding job. And we enjoyed practicing with them.
My dad, they did go to state last year too, that same group, so.
Yeah.
I left this little legacy. Alan's working tonight, just gonna go through this quickly, it's testing time, so he's busy doing testing. They added a procedure where all the students coming in through orientation will now be able to earn a key handler's card. So a lot of kids are only looking at 2 weeks, but at least they will leave with some type of certification to take forward. Also, there's a heavy emphasis on vocational rehabilitation. We talked a little bit about that last month. Moving us along here, this is the budget status for the month. Just as a reminder, this runs 1 month. It's slow by a month, basically, because this reflects last month's everything that's cleared through. Started the month at $733,000. Ended the month, thus we will begin March at $836.85. I just spoke in an earlier meeting because we have 2 and state because, that, once it's tied up, you can't generate logging revenue for the school. But they reduce then your apportionment proportionately. So it's just kind of, here it is, and now it's gone, so we don't spend it, which is why you see a little extra large fund balance. And not only that, it's like I said earlier, we've been working for the last year and a half to try to get us in a position to add another, technology and type of science teacher. So what's going on there? Enrollment trends. We're getting close to the 400 line. This is our second highest month. We had a spike there in November. And now we're getting close to that again, which is kind of unusual because you don't usually see your enrollment tick up a little bit in March. But we'll take it. We're happy.
Remind me again when we get the numbers regarding the
Youth camp, April 15th. So it'll be, and they don't miss that because if they do, they're on the hook for whatever. That will happen, guaranteed. Okay, Steve.
Okay, can you put that site view one up first?
Not this one?
The one with the plan that shows the bus garage?
The whole one? Oh, just look at 6.
I think that's it there.
Probably. Is that one?
Yeah.
They probably want to read the notes too.
Well, we can go to that. At the request of Lisa and Scott Valerier, I attended the last facilities meeting, and they wanted to show them some of the drawings that I'd done on the architectural wall that we're proposing down by the message board sign. And in the process of that, I asked them about this right here, this hatchet area. That is the old Pavla driveway. It's asphalt. It's abandoned. Randy has logs right there with a cone and another one there. To me, it doesn't look good. And so at that meeting, I asked them if they would consider, authorizing the removal of that, and they discussed it and did so. And so I've contacted DOT. Tor Larson's got back to me, and it looks like they're going to issue a permit to allow us to go in and remove that. So what will happen, we're going to saw cut right along this pavement line, the shoulder line right here, and then demo all this out, including the gravel, and then, probably go down 6-8 inches, and then put soil back in, grass, so Larry's going to be able to mow that, and we'll just kind of clean up that area. And then just for your information, this other note here, this note 3, Bob, I think you built that approach, or that road connection road there, and there's a culvert right there, and clearly someone has intended to flatten those slopes, but it's just never been done. And I've noticed that right here, a bus evidently got pretty close to the edge, and there's about a 50-foot section where it's, sunk down about that far. And that slope is, it's like a 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1 slope. That's what you call a rollover slope, and non-recoverable. If a bus gets over there, it's going to go over on the side. So what I proposed to them was to flatten the slope to at least a 3 to 1, maybe a 4 to 1 slope on both sides. And it's going to do two things. It's going to improve the safety, it's going to improve the maintenance of it, and it will also improve the appearance of it. So that was a couple things we talked about, but the main reason I was there was this area down here. And this is the proposed layout of the architectural wall. And
Steve,
so,
to flatten those, is that what you're proposing, a gravel or?
Well,
or a combination?
I'm going to talk to Arnie.
For stability, it's gonna need to be something besides topsoil, right?
Well, honestly, I don't know that it would need to be, because it'll get walked in, and it'll be like just driving on a dirt slope. So, I'm not sure what the soil will consist of, but clearly the top would have to be some kind of a topsoil that would grow grass, so it would look nice. Okay, this here is just a photograph that I took, and then I actually put some grading pins in here in the alignment of the wall, and then use that to draw this top line, and then just drop down proportionately to try to lay out a wall and how it looks, how it will look or might look. Now, when I met with the facilities committee, I actually had two views. One of them was with the wall being built level, like it's showing right here. And the other one was where it would start here at the message board, it would drop down a block, come out a ways, drop down another block, and then come around the radius back over this side and build back up, kind of a terraced. So it improved the ability to see the landscape area behind the wall. And I haven't shared this with the facilities committee, but they've asked me to come back because they wanted me to provide a cost estimate. And I've been kind of thinking, well, a couple things they've asked about. One is, well, what about this light pole that's right in the middle of this here? And that's a great point, because when we put the wall in, you can't get to the pole. So I talked to Lisa, and I went ahead and contacted Jason Dunsmore with PUD. He's given me an estimate to pull the pole out, relocate it to the other side of the road. And the DOT's working on that as far as whether or not they'll approve it or not, which I think they will. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is, my original thought on this was to have a terraced appearance, but they came up with an idea of putting a sign right in this area here. This would be about what you would see as you turn to make the corner to come in to the school. Some type of, welcome to Naselle River School District, however they can word it, I'm gonna leave that up to them. That'll be their thing. But, and then in that conversation, I think it was Scott suggested maybe putting some lighting out there, which would be, we could easily come from this here with a conduit and run it down there, which would be just awesome to have some lighting on there. So those are, now, I've now realized after laying this thing out and doing the drawings that if this got terraced, and we get a lot of rain here, all that bark dust is going to wash right off the end of this right here. And so my recommendation is going to be to go with this top line here. It's going to provide more surface for the sign, give more horizontal and vertical space. I don't know, have you got any other photos there, Lisa?
I have the one.
Oh, there's some side, I sent some, the photographs, yeah. This is, Dave Westerland has just built a house out on Parkville Road, and Johnson & Sons did a lot of the grading work there, and they built this wall. And you can see that's 4 blocks high plus a cap. And that, looking at that particular view, that's kind of what you're going to see when you turn into the school, except it's going to be 3 blocks higher than that. The wall I'm proposing to be 7 blocks high. So that one there's about 3.5 feet tall from bottom to top. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like, and then what the land, with the grass on top. And then there's a couple other photos there. Or is that all you did, Lisa? Okay, this is a sectional view that I drew for the DOT required cross-sectional views. And so I drew this looking straight across the highway at it, and then showed, if you look down here, there's a proposed final grade. And so there's a dashed line in here. So, because that's what they're interested in, is what's it going to do to their property within their right-of-way. And so but it gives you a different look on what the wall's going to look like from that side. And then there's a second view from the right-of-way, if you go to that.
Daddy.
is, you know, just another section that the DOT required, and it's difficult to see because it's, right here, there's a line drawn for what the typical ground line is going to be. Our DOT right-of-way is that white staff right there. And so the wall is all going to be on our property, but it's going to require grading on theirs. And they wanted to see that so they could assess whether or not to do that. Now, we do have fiber optics that comes right through here. If you've noticed orange paint out there, Keith Workla marked that out for me. And they did have the directional board down underneath the pavement, but I did not want, you know, I wanted to know when he came out with this thing and measured it. It's well below any portion of the wall, so there should not be any utility conflicts. We had water come out, they're out of the way, so you know, I would suggest that this pole does get relocated if the DOT will authorize its placement. The problem is it's going from our property to DOT property. It's outside of right-of-way, but it's on their property. But Jason Dunsmore says they've got an easement that would facilitate it, so.
What's on the pole?
It's the light for the intersection. Yeah.
Because the light doesn't work.
It doesn't?
It hasn't worked very long as I've been here.
Yeah. Seriously?
Relocated, so it doesn't matter where you put it.
Well, maybe we can get that estimate reduced. Okay, well that's, I thought DOT required those at intersections. Now, I'll have to look into that. But anyway, that's kind of the gist of it. I've got some quotes from 2 suppliers for the block, and I'm going to be sharing them with the facilities committee in May. And then, you know, depending on what they choose to do, Lisa may be bringing that to the board.
That was what the picture, is there more one you wanted?
Was that the only photograph of the wall? I thought I sent 4 of them, but maybe they didn't all send. Okay. Yeah, I actually had 3 or 4 pictures of the wall to kind of show the view on top, because there's a finished cap that goes on top to trim it out, and that gets it glued down. There's adhesive you use so that it can't be knocked off. But anyway.
Thanks for doing that.
We have a lot of people who say, how do you get into your school? So there's really fine everywhere, I can't really figure it out. So, maybe people who work here sometimes go the wrong way. Okay, then just a couple quick things. Remember as board members, you have to do your public disclosure. I've sent an email with information. Still on tax day. I'm gonna skip, no, I want to show this picture actually. Russ talked about the inner high, and our students actually made the Daily World Magazine paper, and one of our very own is in it, in an online version, so can't go without seeing that. You might recognize this person. So, here's Ellie working on something. That was nice. A couple other things, as the year winds down, according to board policy, as far as superintendent evaluation, it says that the SUP has the opportunity for free confidential conferences regarding evaluation. We've done 2. We have to have a formal one by May. So what I'd like to talk to the board about is, do we want to do the 3rd one, then perhaps at the April board meeting, or do we want to use the January as the formal, and then, you know, get on to next year's evaluation tool and goal setting process? The way I read the policy, it says the superintendent shall have the opportunity then by May 1, so I just wanted to.
Well, that May 1 is in procedure, it's not in policy. And that May 1 date was intended for the sole purpose of complying with contracts. So superintendent would know, and the district would know, you've got a superintendent or they're going out looking for work. But with Lisa's contract, having language for February, that, the February one was prior to May 1st. We've conducted her formal evaluation. To me, we've met that criteria. So but what we talked about, and I think what's important is somewhere around the end of the school year, that we just get together and talk about, in a very informal setting, how things went. I think it's a useful tool that gives the board to kind of interact a little bit, but I'd like to see us do that, and not necessarily in April or May, but maybe more towards June or July.
What would that do for the ensuing two, if we're talking about 3, where would you have the?
We already had 2.
No, I mean for next year. If you're saying June or July, and then.
Well, we did one in, when was that, November?
In January?
Was it in January?
January was last one.
Okay.
Well, we did one prior to that. Yeah, we did.
I think it was November.
I think you're right.
In January. And I think policy says that we have to have our new goals by July 1. So I think that could be part of that whole conversation of how the year go, what are our goals moving forward. What is so this is kind of a two-part conversation, but I think we have to decide the first one first. Anyone else?
I'm fine. If she wants to forego that third evaluation, I don't have a problem with that.
As long as we're within RCW's policies.
I'm good with it.
I just kind of like the opportunity to get together as a group to discuss, and what we've done is taken away one of those opportunities where we're not sitting out here and being able to discuss anything that we want to discuss with Lisa as far as performance or things we want. That's one less opportunity to do. So for that reason, I would be opposed to taking it away.
Did Steve suggest we do that in June anyway?
Well, I was, if we're going to have 3 evaluations a year, right? I mean, are we cutting one out? Isn't that cutting one out?
It may be cutting out an evaluation. It would be a fairly informal evaluation. I would think at that point.
Yeah, policy says I will have the opportunity. So, I mean, I kind of take that as written from my perspective, but well, that's up for interpretation. It says shall have the opportunity for.
Well, if you never wanted to have the opportunity, how would we ever evaluate you? But I guess.
Well, I think the number, the issue is food.
Right.
And we've already done that formal. We have to have a formal.
We've done 2 in writing, and I think, if I'm interpreting Steve's suggestion correctly, that we would actually have a 3rd one in June that wouldn't be written. It would just be a discussion of how things went.
So we want to be able to.
I'd really like to use that June one because our goals have to be, I think the board goals are mine, I have to review it again, but there's a timeline of July 1. So something will have to be done at a June meeting or in the month of June to meet that.
Is that policy or procedure?
I'm going to have to defer that and look at it again. I believe I sent that to you guys, but I don't.
I think that might be in the procedures. I'm not exactly sure.
If the procedures aren't that relevant, there's a lot of them that, as far as I'm concerned, we could detract from because they don't fit the natural timelines of the process. So I guess that's something I need to know. we're required to follow the procedure. Because that drives a lot of these things, and frankly, the procedures don't align with some of the work in my opinion.
Well, that's something we could take a look at along with the goals. When things are not the way we want them, we can fix them so we can.
I would say that we're not going to follow the procedures, and there's no sense in having it.
Yeah, or fix it so that it's.
So fix it.
That makes sense.
Tweak it.
What's and the tweaking.
Well, you know, the one that Lisa was referring to says May 1.
Formal by May 1.
Right, and we complied with that, but we can modify that procedure to fit whatever we want it to be.
Everywhere, which is what most contracts.
Are we on? Are you?
Oh.
Okay, we'll move on, so the next one will be for setting the goals, and I guess that's kind of my next question is, okay, so going forward, it's my understanding that the board would like to have a new evaluation tool and job description. So, to me, the important question would be, what process are we going to use to handle that? Are we going to have a board workshop, have the whole board together and look at some different tools, everybody maybe bring some that they like, or do we want to set up a subcommittee of myself and 2 board members, and then or a board member, preferably 2, and then bring a recommended tool, assessment tool, and description to the whole group.
Lisa, have you had any communication with Patty Wood at all?
Not about this
As
particular.
far as a workshop and goal setting?
No, I've been talking with other superintendents at ESD as far as evaluation tools.
And she sent a couple out.
I've sent, at least 2, maybe 3.
There was one in particular that caught my eye. That, of course, it doesn't exactly fit our situation, but it's workable.
I think we can relatively easily come up with something when we have a few templates. WASDA has some out. There was one from the center. There's another one I've recently found online. We think there's a couple different things here where we may want to bring in Patty. I think Patty might be more helpful, like in setting goals as we move forward as a board. To me, the evaluation tool, there's a variety of tools that you can use, but it needs to accurately capture the job description. Now, most of the job descriptions are pretty much everything. I mean, I'm ultimately responsible for everything. I don't think I want it written quite that vague. But I have several good examples. I don't think this would necessarily be a lengthy process, but it depends how much involvement each individual person would want.
I'd like to see a board workshop, honestly. And that way, there's no question about what it is. We don't get something drafted and then we get to a board meeting and find out that that's not what a particular board member was interested in or wanted to do something different. This way we can all weigh in and make sure that it's, it fits for us.
I would agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Scheduled workshop.
Now, Lisa, would that also include developing a job description for you, which you really don't have? Yeah. Okay.
I think we'll really need to go together because
Job description should come first.
you gotta know what you're doing before you're evaluated on it. Now, we have a standard superintendent job description, like probably the other 200 and some school districts. So, calendar-wise, if we're going to have, if we're going to continue with the procedure, I think the board goals have to be done by July 1. And then my goals need to follow so that there's not a disconnect there. So I would think we would need to have this workshop fairly soon. I know just from the conversation we just had about Mandarin, it doesn't sound like there's a big amount of availability. You guys just want me to email dates. I mean, it's kind of hard to get an email trained on and settle this, so what do you prefer?
May works as long as it fits the time.
Okay? Well, we may not, I have to go back and reread it. When I send it, I want you guys to have it in your head, so I don't have to dig it back out.
I'm probably more flexible than anybody else. Work around everybody else.
And is it something that would work in the daytime, you want an evening?
Say no, it's okay.
I'm open either way.
I would be the third with that same response.
And 3 days, Bob?
Yeah, we need to probably be noon or later. I'm good after probably noon, almost any day. In May. June gets a little sketchy for me.
I'm going to try to set it for as early in May as possible, because May is a lot of school-wide decisions that, I don't want to be thinking about this thing. Josh, any idea?
It's open for me.
Well, I'm trying to get something early May, 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know what days or weekends, but probably that's okay, so that's it for me.
Okay, I got a comment. We can go back to the superintendent's evaluation. I pulled up the policy. It says the superintendent will have the opportunity for confidential conferences with the board members on no less than 3 occasions in each year. No less than 3.
Okay, so we could do it in June.
So.
My word was opportunity.
Does it say the superintendent shall have the opportunity?
The superintendent will have the opportunity for.
No less than 3.
Right.
Okay, she has chosen not to avail of her.
I could probably pull up the RCW, but I think the RCW says you will have 3. I'm pretty sure that's what it says. I think we've got into that before.
Okay. So but we couldn't have a confidential discussion in June.
Sure.
And that
Yeah, and that's consistent with what we talked about doing.
Right. Okay.
Well, we'll check the rules, I just thought opportunity meant, would you like the opportunity to eat this piece of cake? No, thank you, or yes? I mean, I don't.
At least 3 pieces.
At least 3. So, let's review the RCW, I'm confident it's not 3 by law, because I know Nixtel has never done that before, but I know, okay.
Okay. Board member reports and future agenda items. Anything? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.